Hi, I'm Carlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. It's one of those days, isn't it? I thought this was going to be an easy day. I really did. I had my supporter call earlier today at noon. It lasted a couple hours, which is significantly less than it usually lasts. It usually lasts 3 to 4 hours, which is fine because I love my supporters. I really, really do. But it was really nice to wrap the call up in a couple hours. And I was like, I'm going to have all this additional work time. I have so many projects. You guys know I have the list of 87 things that I want to do on any given day, and I'm behind on all of them. And then there was breaking news that Project Veritas was suing James O'Keefe. And so earlier today, I went live and I read the lawsuit. And this is a step that a lot of people seem to be skipping over. How do you join the supporter calls? That's a great question. You can join my Substack, Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. As a paying supporter for $5 a month, $50 a year. You can become a paying supporter in my locals community. You can become a paying supporter on my Patreon. Those will all get you into my weekly supporter calls, and I do 2 of them every single week. So earlier today, around 3 p.m., because my day wasn't busy enough, I went live to read the lawsuit that Project Veritas has filed against James O'Keefe. Now, it strikes me that a lot of people commentating on this issue have not actually read the lawsuit. And so what I'm about to say might hurt the feels of some people, but James O'Keefe is going to lose because James O'Keefe openly and blatantly violated his employment agreement. And we all saw it happen live on the internet. And the too long didn't read is that James O'Keefe was still employed by Project Veritas up until May 15th. But During that time, he quote unquote left Project Veritas, but he was not fired and he did not officially resign. He was still employed by Project Veritas until May 15th. He did a conservative media tour disparaging Project Veritas. He set up his own rival organization to compete with Project Veritas. He used Project Veritas's equipment in order to do it. He poached Project Veritas's employees. He poached Project Veritas's donor list. And every single one of those things, and this all happened in the open where all of us can see it. This is not in dispute. Every single one of those things was against James O'Keefe's employment agreement with Project Veritas, which James O'Keefe signed, which we have a copy of in this lawsuit, and nothing else matters other than that, guys. Nothing else matters. Whether or not James O'Keefe is guilty of the things that Project Veritas claims he's guilty of in terms of like talking down to employees, shouting at employees, saying dumb shit, flying around in a helicopter, having his employees do his errands, etc., 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 etc. Nothing else, none of that matters, whether or not that's true. Because regardless of whether that stuff is true or not, James O'Keefe still openly and flagrantly violated his employment agreement. Okay? So James O'Keefe is going to lose. Of this, I am positive. I'm sure beyond measure. But I also think James O'Keefe is a narcissist. And so he's gone on this smear campaign about Project Veritas. And he's talking now when he shouldn't be. And James O'Keefe is hosting a subscriber-only space in about 1 minute. And I subscribed. And I want to hear what James O'Keefe has to say to his subscribers about this lawsuit from Project Veritas. Oh, is he hosting? Is it playing? Is it playing? Listen live. Let's tune in, guys. And then we're listening to Tim Pool after. Hang on. There we go. And James O'Keefe should really be expecting that people are going to be listening to this. He's recording it. He knows. So, guys, we're going to listen to what James O'Keefe has to say on this. And then afterwards, we're going to watch TimCastIRL, where James O'Keefe is going to dig the hole deeper. It'll be interesting to see who shows up on this. Yeah, this is what happens on a Twitter space. You can have music playing while people are joining to make it nice. I don't know, guys. What do you think about this whole James O'Keefe situation? Let us know in the chat what you think. Yup. Joshua was right about this, Sin. Joshua was right about this. He is being extremely
Once we get the
arrogant.
music off,
Oh,
okay,
here we go.
The
Here we
music
go.
is off,
Getting
folks.
started.
Look, we like the music, but everyone wants to hear from James O'Keefe. Thank you for joining this space. Everyone, make sure you share this space. Just tweet it out to your folks. Share this space because we're going to get real here ahead of James's appearance on TimCast. That's happening tonight. We have James O'Keefe on. We're going to let some folks in, and we're going to get straight to the point. James, how you doing?
Hey, RC, great. I'm actually sitting here at the Tim Pool compound downstairs. Tim is sitting over there, and I'm going on his show in an hour. But I wanted to do this space for subscribers only, and I see we have a few dozen people already. Thank you all. It means so much to me that you paid $7 a month to participate in this. And if you didn't see my comment,
You're welcome.
It costs so much to do the investigative reporting that we do and deal with all the lawsuits. I came from the 501c3 world, which is a nonprofit world, where every dollar I spent I had to raise, and I worked as hard as I could to raise it. In fact, I was probably working 3 different jobs, one 40-hour-a-week job just to raise funds. But fundraising was never an end to me. It was never like what motivated me. It was never why I do what I do. It was always a means to the end of doing whatever I had to do to get the stories out. Well, I call it the filet mignon of investigative reporting. So some of you have said, well, I don't want to subscribe to be in a space. And I say, well, it costs a lot to do what we do, and to go undercover, to deal with the accompanying lawsuits, to pay our band of brothers, as I call them. So we offer the newsworthy parts of our journalism for free, and I always will. But subscriptions are so I can raise money to defend my right to free speech, which is your voice in uncovering the truth amplified, since this is sort of the line in the sand here. So if that makes sense, I hope it does. There's no business model for the sort of journalism that we do, because we go there. To quote the late Shane Smith, right? I think Tim worked with or worked for Shane years ago.
Sorry,
Vice News. And ironically, my executive assistant's name is Shane Smith, but Shayne Smith, not Shane Smith. So one of the crazy things about life. So what I'd like to do actually is, we got some people here who support OMG, and RC, if you can call on them, or people want to ask questions, sort of make it very interactive. I've got about 10-15 minutes, so maybe like lightning round about the news of today.
That's it.
Yeah, anyone who wants to be a speaker, you're going to go ahead and have to request to be a speaker, or make it known that you're willing to come on and have what is a really private and candid chat here with James O'Keefe as he's trending here on Twitter.
Not private.
Obviously,
I think that this is a James O'Keefe smear campaign. I don't believe this anymore.
So do we have any first takers? If not, I'll keep talking. We have 2 requests here from Crystal Mage. Indeed, it's Jana. So maybe we can get them to speak up. Gold and Jana, speaker. Okay, Gold, there you are. Hello.
Hey guys. Hey James.
Hey there. How are you guys?
I'm good. We spoke on Instagram when my country was locked down and I was literally locked in my house for God knows how long. Thank you so much for doing what you do. I'm just asking, I know your eyes are mostly in the States, but how can we help from Canada besides subscribing and donating what we can?
Oh, come on. Ask a real question,
Change your laws.
please.
I mean, I have to check on the Canadian recording laws. To be honest with you, I've gotten so many Canadians that have asked me to go do this stuff in Canada. I had a few tips, particularly around your last federal election. But a lot of these other countries have really difficult recording laws. Like in the United States, we have 38 states where it's legal to record someone. It's called one-party consent. And then there's 12 states where it's problematic. You have to be in an area where there's no expectation of privacy. Like right now, I'm in the state of Maryland. It's against the law. It's a Class A misdemeanor for me to record someone, even if I'm with them. That's what they got Bill Clinton or Linda Tripp on, recorded Monica Lewinsky. So thank you for reaching out to us on Instagram. And what I would say to you is, if you are in Canada and you are a whistleblower, or you know something, and you're brave and you're willing, that we could always tell your story. I could work with you, potentially ship a camera to you, but more importantly, we all have to fight for our rights. You guys don't have a First Amendment. You don't have Article 3 courts, like we do in the United States, which I believe is the least corrupt branch of government, relatively speaking. I know that's not saying much these days, but relatively speaking, the Article 3 courts in the United States are different than yours. So you could be a source to us, and I can help tell your stories. That's the best I can offer right now. I know that's not everything, but we got some brave people up there, and we got to find people who are brave. So thank you. Jana, do you want to say something?
I just want to say thank you to James. And yeah, we're going to keep fighting here. And today in the House of Commons in Parliament, the leader of the opposition talked about the reason why our prime minister got fired from a school. He worked at a private school and suddenly got fired. You guys can research that yourself. He actually brought that up in Parliament. So we're
This
getting
is James.
closer. We
This
need to
is him.
change governments
It's on his
every
Twitter.
level, municipal all the way up.
Awesome. How about Mr. Gold? I see your hand is raised.
Hey, thanks, James. A longtime supporter. You're doing great work. Thank you for everything you're doing, man. I am also a Canadian. I'm on this side of the board.
So many Canadians.
Oh, yeah. We support you, James. We are listening. We are hearing what you're doing. We are seeing what you're doing. We support you. We want to help. There are many, many, many people that are backing you. I just want to let you know, I am going to continue to gather more and more people to help support OMG in every way that I possibly can.
Well, thank you. And where are you in Canada? My grandfather, my mother's father, lived on the St. Lawrence River, which is upstate New York, across from Ontario. Where are you located?
I am right in southwestern Ontario right at the moment, but I'm kind of mobile. I'm driving back and forth across the entire country, raising awareness for various issues. But yeah, I just wanted to throw in my support and say, James, you're doing a great job. Thank you for all that you're doing. And I have subscribed, and I'm going to get as many people as I know to subscribe as well to support you and everything that you do, my friend.
Thank you. And I've always taken a lot of arrows, and when I'm on Tim's show, I want to go a little bit through anecdotally the last 15 years of my life. I don't ever want to think of myself or my colleagues as victims. That's not the intention of telling the stories. It's the human dynamic of taking the arrows when you're the tip of the spear. But I never thought I'd be taking arrows in the back. That hits differently.
And respond, James.
It feels different. It's of a different nature, but isn't that really where we are in society these days? Isn't that really the line that's drawn in the sand? The line that separates good and evil runs through every human heart. It runs through each of us. Good people do bad things, but it certainly feels different. And being silenced and being the attempts to shut someone down. I'm sitting next to my reporter colleague who has done some great stories.
That's not what it's about.
He's sitting right next to me, and he said to me this morning, he said some pretty profound things about that. The attempts it takes the attempts of shutting you down and doing the right thing. And when you're doing the right thing, it's very difficult. And there's a temptation to not do the right thing because of how difficult it is to do the right thing. Even when you do everything right, they falsely accuse you. So it's a long list of the things that I've been through. And when I tell them, I'm not saying it to sound like a victim. I'm saying it because I want to tell the human story of what it takes. Because now they're coming after my colleagues, people at OMG. They're named here, and
because
I was telling Tim as I walked into his home that one of the problems, you got to raise all this money to pay all these lawyers, which is its own sort of tragedy, because you're not spending money on journalism, you're spending money on fundraising to pay lawyers, which is perhaps the process is the punishment.
That's not what happened.
And that's really what it is. And
that's not what happened at all.
And you have to deal with that part. So I appreciate you saying that. In a macro sense here, we're fighting for the right to speak, the right to tell stories, and the right to be heard. And no one should be asking the federal government to shut down journalists or federal judges to stop journalism or silence journalism.
That's not what's happening. James
or
is
to
lying.
Prevent corruption from being exposed. These are fundamental things. And as long as I have you guys, as long as there's, at least a few of you, I won't stop. I promise you that. So thank you. And now we have two people on the queue. We've got Sharon. Sharon, go ahead.
Hi, James. It is so good to actually just talk to you for a moment. I have been following you forever, and you sent me a really sweet message on
Can someone please ask
Messenger
him a real
about
question?
the mandates a long time ago. You would never remember it. And I'm not going to take anybody's time, but I just wanted to tell you that when you know, at the time you were with Project Veritas, when you guys went there and you covered the child trafficking. I had been begging for years. We all know what the old Twitter was like, and all of the things that are being exposed with the drug companies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As a nurse of over 3 decades, just thank you for the content you are
No, because
covering.
I don't
I
want to
know
out
you
my
have not had it
stream.
easy. I just wanted to tell you, you do not go unappreciated, and that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And
This is supposed to be real
and
talk, James. I
I
paid
did,
$7 for
let's
this.
see who else is there. How about Keen Speaks? Your hand is raised.
Hey, James, it's Keen. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. And I just want to say a couple things. It's amazing that the stories that you're unveiling and all of the corruption that you're exposing, we support it. And I'm also from north of the border as well, up in Canada.
Wow,
But
a lot of
yeah,
Canadian friends.
yeah, a lot of us. But I've been watching government and corruption very closely ever since 9/11. Even though I was, you know, just a teenager at the time, I saw problems with everything that went on during those times. And ever since then, I've been watching the constant repetition and regurgitation of BS from corporate media, government alike. And I'm just so glad that there's people like out there like you truly fighting for what's truly just and truly right and humane. And I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Yeah,
This is so sad.
there's a lot more left to expose. You know, the Pfizer stories, the FDA stories. I can't get into specifics, but right now I've got my reporters on the ground, and
Oh,
they're
yes,
actually
they
working
should
with
have
what we
warned
call
him not to
CJs,
do
which is citizen
this.
journalists on OMG's website. We have a form you can fill out, and there's been like, I don't know, 1,100 people, 1,200 people so far that's fill out this form, and we don't ship all of them cameras, but we dispatch them. So right now there's actually something happening. You know, I can't say where, but a few of these citizen journalists, we're sort of dispatching them, and they're not on my payroll. So what we're trying to do is decentralize journalism because people don't trust institutions anymore. So we're doing it, and there's a lot more to do. Some would call it moments journalism. We get a lot of tips from you guys, and sometimes it's thousands of pages of documentation, and people sort of eyes glaze over and they get bored and tired because they don't understand the story. People want to see they want to see who's behind what's going on. They want to hear it. They want to be able to see the lips moving. Moments journalism, what I used to call cinema verite, stuff that makes you go, "Oh my God!" Right? That shocks the conscience. That's what we're trying to do, and we got a lot of work left to do, and the efforts to silence that or stop that
That's
or
not what this is,
what
James.
have you. We believe that will have a Streisand effect and will only further our mission. I have to believe that.
He's doubling down.
Okay, let's go to Tina Ludwig.
Hello, James. I just want to say thank you for all the work that you do. We had actually corresponded via email a couple years ago when I worked for a big retail organization, and they had put out some workshops, some DEI related workshops that were quite bad. And you were just so wonderful to deal with. And while I had already left the organization and didn't have as much evidence as I would have liked to have had, it was great working with you. And I appreciate everything that you're doing in starting OMG. It's horrible how you were treated by the company that you founded. And I was at the last event in Arizona in December at AmFest, and didn't get a chance to meet you, but I hope that you're able to put some of those soirees together with OMG, because it was a lot of fun. And thank you.
Thank you for saying that. The soarees. That's a nice way of putting it. we will definitely have soirees. We'll have dance
This is
parties. We'll have
exactly what's
musicals.
happening.
For
This
those of
is
you who
like a
don't know, most of you,
narcissistic
well, many of you do.
fuel
I held this thing
gathering
called
right
the
here is what's
PVE,
going
which is
on.
basically a musical.
God, this
Rolling
guy.
Stone did a review on it. It was like this musical about what we've been through. It was like the wildest thing ever. It was in Miami at the Fontainebleau. Some people liked it, some people didn't, but I definitely, and I just posted a clip of me doing Shakespeare. I'll have to do that on Tim's show. I'm going to do Henry V for like a few minutes. And I think that being an artist is, journalism is a form of art. Storytelling is a form of an art. And a lot of people not have expressed displeasure, dislike for that part of me or that piece of me. But if I wasn't that way, I don't think there ever would have been, there never would have been a Project Veritas, and there never would have been this. If I was motivated by something different, if I was, I don't know, if we were motivated by power or elected office. So we will definitely do that. We will definitely do that again. Okay. It's 7:18. I said I'd go to 7:15, but I'll go for another 10 minutes or so because
Can you
I think this is
respond
important.
to the lawsuit,
How about we
James?
go to Manatee and then after that KB Trader. First Manatee, go ahead.
So obviously we're very concerned about what Project Veritas is doing, and I understand that you may be limited in what you can say, but can you speak to
Thank
anything
you.
of what's going on and how that's affecting OMG at the moment?
What I'll say is it's a lawsuit filed against us, and like I said earlier, I've taken a lot of arrows. I never really thought that I'd be taking them from my own people that I thought I could trust, and people, and that's my fault. I guess I learned something about maintaining a board and nonprofit governance. There was a great article written by Robert Malone, the doctor, and he wrote something which I'm going to just read a piece of it to you. How does it affect OMG? Well, OMG is owned 100% by me. It's a subscription-based news organization. Has no board of directors. I think being an
That was a smart
independent
way to
journalist
set it
is
up, by
very
the way.
important to maintain
That was very smart
a
of
sense
him.
of control about what you're doing and to not let advertising influences pressure you. But I just want to read this little excerpt of Malone because I think it's so on point. Here we go. I'm quoting Dr. Malone. Without knowing any of the details in the complaint against him, this episode has all the earmarks of a terrible institutional problem in nonprofits we've seen. All it takes is a remarkable public relations success, a big infusion of funds, plus a weak, jealous, confused board using disgruntled employees as shields for their misdeeds. I'm quoting Dr. Malone here. The board develops a backwards-looking focus, taking a part of the successes. Why did they take such risks with our money and reputation? Why didn't the head of the organization consult with the board? Why didn't the head follow industry organized consult with the board before going ahead and consult industry established best practices? How come the organization's president did not do something different that would supposedly better establish long-term success? So all it takes is a fake investigation, some claim that the guy at the top is making everyone work too hard and creates a burned out staff or something like that. You can fill in the blanks with complaints. The scheme usually involves some type of claims of financial wrongdoing, such as office parties and helicopter rides, anything to make the guy at the top look like a bum and a robber. But once the decision is made, he really has no chance. All that remains is the need to find pretext. Next thing you know, the unthinkable happens. The hardest working, most innovative, and most effective person at the top is out. The board gets to keep the money. The disgruntled employees get their pound of flesh. And everyone who stabbed the guy in the back gets a raise and life goes on. I've seen this many times over decades where nonprofits kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. The fate is always the same. The organization maintains some name recognition and funding, but the achievements gradually fade. This is the triumph of bureaucracy over achievement. It's a tragedy, but it's a common tragedy. It's unfortunately very common, particularly with hospitals and churches. And it's in a wicked tragedy. And part of the problem traces to the legal structure of nonprofits themselves, because they aren't owned by anyone in particular. The board of a nonprofit is tasked with hiring the president, and the president hires the staff. The board of a nonprofit is tasked with hiring and firing the CEO. The board is unpaid, which usually means that they have no reason to be involved in the operations, but all the while, they have a sense that they should be controlling things, even though they really understand anything about operations at
That's
all.
not what this is about.
So,
James is lying.
those
That's
were the
not what
words
this
of
is
Dr.
about.
Robert Malone. And that is those are very profound words, aren't they? So, is it my fault? Yeah, I guess it is, because I never really understood truly the nature of a nonprofit organization, and now I do. And I've chosen a different structure, and I've been untethered. I mean, Tim Pool said it best. He said, James has been untethered. He's been liberated. And I have. So I'm very forward looking. I'm very grateful for all of you. That's what I will say. I come out of this with extreme sense of gratitude for the goodness in the world. There's a lot of evil, but there's also a lot of good. One might say the evil is becoming more evil, but I would say the good is becoming more good. And you have to believe that good defeats evil in the end. It has to. Otherwise, what's the point? That's what I believe. I've got 7 minutes left, and I've got 4 people raising their hand. Let's first go to Anna, please.
Hi, James. Thank you so much for calling on me. I wanted to just first and foremost thank you for just reporting the truth. It's so important that we have spaces like this to actually go to, and it's just an honorable thing you were doing. I've been this past 2 weeks. I invested in a stock in TLP, and I know that some people in our community have spoken with you. I've spoken with the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times in the past 2 weeks, and I'm very nervous that they will not be reporting the truth on the story. So, I'm just wanted to say thank you. And I would love to talk to you sometimes about what happened to me in DC. I walked the halls of Congress because
Yeah.
it's
Basically,
essentially
this
like
is
the
what this is.
99.5% don't know we're having our 401ks and IRAs stolen in the
This is
stock
James
market through
O'Keefe getting people
counterfeit
to say,
shares.
James, you are so
And
brave. You are
I
so
hope you can
stunning. You are
report
so
on it because it
beautiful.
needs to be told. It's the biggest thing going. Our stock markets are a Ponzi scheme full of counterfeit shares.
Hey, Anna, I'm going to DM you. I would like to do that story. I got to get the story, Smoking Gun. So I'll DM you here after this call, and
That
we'll
would be
do a call
terrific.
offline. I got about 6 minutes
Thank
left.
you.
Let me get to a few other people. Let's go to Rusty Shackelford.
Hey, James. I'm in America, so I wanted to represent. But you're doing a great job. I really had not heard of you before the Pfizer story came out, and I was like, "Wow, oh my God, who is this guy?" And I'd like to support you more. And I was looking on your website, and I guess I should go to the subscriber to subscribe. I guess that'll help. But also, too, is there just some kind of donation that we could do as well?
Yes. If you go to o'keefemediagroup.com, you'll see options like sponsorship packages on the bottom of the website, and there's options of 500, 1,000, 2,500, 5,000, and what you get in return for that, you're supporting us. You'll also sponsor a camera if it's a higher level, like a $5,000. I'll make a video for you, and you'll get a subscription to our website, which you'll get the full podcast. We just did one with RFK yesterday. It's an hour long. You'll get access to master classes, which are coming out in a couple of weeks, on how to do the journalism that we do.
I'm
And you'll be
blown
supporting our
away
work. So that's how you
by
do it. You
what
just go to our
this is.
website.
I'm blown
There are the
away.
options 500 to 5,000. I hope the people on here, a few of you do that. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay these lawyers, defend off these lawsuits. You guys all want me to fight them. Obviously, you don't want me to give up. But I can't fight them without money. I'm not a wealthy man. So
can I make a suggestion
go
to
ahead.
maybe send out a tweet on that, and that'll be something that we could all share to make
You
sure
bet.
that you know what I'm saying, and it's something that we can go back to weekly and make sure we keep sharing. I mean, I know that's not probably fun for you to do, but it's just as crazy as our world is, and we get so busy. If you could send out periodic reminders and stuff, and we can all share that, and
we're going to do a
hopefully help you out.
debrief
Thank you
before
so
TimCast.
much.
Thank you, and we will certainly do that.
I can't either, Reagan. I can't.
Okay, a few more.
It's amazing when you see, isn't it? It's
let's see.
amazing.
A reminder, I'm going on Tim Pool's show in 33 minutes from now, so you all tune into that. We'll talk
My
more.
Zooms are
How about-
absolutely
how
better
about,
than this. 100% better than this.
No, we
1,000%
already
better
got,
than this.
Sharon B, legal nurse.
Hi,
Go
I
ahead.
already spoke, but thank you. I
Okay.
already spoke earlier. I'll just letting you
Okay,
know
very
I get
good. How
paid
about-
again tomorrow night. So I'll be donating.
Thank you. How about let's go to Tamki? Tamki, I don't think you've spoken.
Yeah, it's actually Tammy. Thank you.
Tammy,
Wow.
all right.
I can't believe you chose me. That's awesome. I am one of the people in Utah that have been watching the country
cringe.
burn down. And it's been terrible knowing that it's going to come to my door. When COVID hit, we were smothered by the media. We couldn't hear any conservative voices, nothing. And now we're hearing too many things going on. It's like they're trying to distract us from focusing on any certain thing. When you got backstabbed by your own company, it so upset me. And I know it's going to come to my door. So when I heard about people being able to help you and contribute to news, cameras and all that stuff you're doing, I got so excited. But then I'm like, I'm here in Utah. What can I do in a place that it hasn't hit like Chicago and all the other places? I
I'm
want to
blown away by
contribute.
how bad this
I
is.
want to fight back.
I'm blown
I
away
want to be
by
a
how
part.
cringe this is. We're going to talk about it. Don't worry.
I know it's going to get worse and worse and worse until 2024. We can only hope it gets better then. What can I do in a place where, like Utah, I know we have a terrible senator, Romney. Can you give me some ideas of some ways that I can help you go hunt down information, help fight back in places it's coming to?
Yeah, so if you go to o'keefemediagroup.com,
Exactly.
on our website,
I'm going to tell you what you can do, Tammy. You can make a donation
go to
to
the
me.
website,
You can give me money.
and you click on the menu
and tell
bar.
me how much you love me again.
You could be a citizen journalist. Go click on citizen journalist reform, and you can fill that out. We have a couple other people in Utah, by the way, that we're actually talking to. It's remarkable how many people want to do this. Like thousands and thousands of people want to get involved. So I would put it back on you and say, you can do this. Sign up and I'll help you do it. I've got a team of people that curate the information and train you and give you cameras. But I would put it back on you and think about what you see in your neighborhood or what you're passionate about exposing, and then go do that thing. And I'll help you do it.
That's kind of the problem, is that in my area, I'm one of the few like things in a desert that you see that aren't real. It's still perfect here. I have not had to fight against anything
This
in
is
my
a
neighborhood,
glorified sales call.
but I see it coming. So I don't know where to go look for it.
That's exactly right.
So does somebody contact you and tell
James is
you
like,
things that
pay
you
me
could
money
do?
and I'll teach you how to be a citizen, which is
but
fine. I mean, he's welcome to
I
do
would
that,
ask
but it's
you
just
to
like,
endeavor to try.
can we be honest
we
about
are
what it
working on
is?
these workshops, these master classes, which we're producing.
Like nothing
and
wrong with those
they're
master
very
classes.
in-depth.
I think that that's
journalistic
actually a good idea,
workshops,
but
which you're a subscriber, so you'll get access to those and watch them.
Okay.
And we'll teach you what a story is, but try to think about what you're passionate about, exposing. Try to think about in your state or city what you want to do, and because a million people message me and say, "Please help me," and we're a very small team. We do the best I can, but I would
know, yeah.
put it back on you for a minute and just think about what you want to do and what you can do, and try and go to our website and fill out that form and tell us what background you're thinking, what skill set you have, what corruption you may see, what you're passionate about, what organizations you're associated with. Fill that out, give it a shot, and then we will call you.
For instance, I'm really worried about it hitting our education system here, and I see it starting to hit, but my children are grown up already. How do I insert myself into the education system without looking like a creeper? That's that kind of stuff I worry about.
You showed up to your board meeting. Have you went to your board meeting? Have you gone there yet?
If you don't have children, can you even do that without looking?
Yes, you can. Yes. You could even go in a little disguise and wear a little button camera and engage in conversation some of the board members in the hallway, right? Because you live in a one-party consent state to record, so you can strike up conversations, ask them questions. I mean, that's the sort of thing we need in this country. Okay, guys, I have time for one more, and then I got to go.
Thank you.
I think I've been waiting.
Thank you. Do we have any others that didn't speak yet?
Yeah, I was in line.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I read through the complaint here, and one of the things that kind of caught my eye was like you've kind of made a lot of jokes about like the black cars, et cetera. And according to the complaint, there was like $500 a ride.
That's not what the complaint was
like,
about.
number one, how is that possible? And if I donate to OMG, are you still spending $500 a ride?
That's actually a good question.
Well,
That's not what the complaint was
a lot
about.
of the security expenses were very expensive. Even security sometimes cost thousands of dollars a day to travel. So the question is do you want the team to be secure or not? And a lot of our investors and supporters did.
Are other journalists
true either.
getting that security, and do they get the black cars as well?
It's not true either.
Some of
James
them
is
did.
lying.
Sometimes, yes.
James is
I
lying.
mean, we had events with lots of journalists.
I'm going to tell you why when he's done.
And in an organization where you're having to raise $50,000 to $100,000 a day, being in a vehicle that's secure, so you can talk about undercover methods in the back seat, or you're on the phone with donors who have a First Amendment freedom of association right. I think that's important. A lot of our supporters think that is important, especially when you have a key man who's responsible for raising $20 million a year. I mean, that's just something that a lot of people care about, So, but I intend to actually only take black cars at OMG. I have a prejudice against vehicles that are of a horse of a different color. So I actually showed up to the Cronkite School in a really black, beautiful, big, sound like Trump, big, beautiful black car, Cadillac. I got out there, so I may even rename the LLC Black Car, right?
Oh, ended. It ended. That's weird. Did they kick me out? Nope, play recording. They did not kick me out. They just ended it. I was subscribed on another account just in case they kicked me out. Okay, guys. Well, that was interesting. I don't know why that ended so ridiculously. Hang on, let me just look in the other account to see if this is really ended, or if that's just that was just they found out I was streaming it or something and they decided to boot my ass out. No, it is actually really over. Okay. Well, that was one of the cringiest things I've ever seen in my life. And guys, we're gonna watch James O'Keefe on TimCast for a little while, and we're gonna see what he says on that too. But I'm gonna explain this to you guys. What James O'Keefe was doing on that call was looking for people to love him and give him compliments and give him praise and say, James, you are so amazing. James, you are so incredible. He didn't speak to the lawsuit at all. There has not been one single person yet that I can tell that has actually spoken to what this lawsuit is. This lawsuit is not about the black cars. This lawsuit is not about if James was nice to employees. This lawsuit was not about, did James make employees go do his errands or fix his boat or take helicopters anywhere? That is not what this is about. This lawsuit is about his employment agreement. And what James is doing right now is he is trying to capitalize on the fact that Project Veritas is suing him for breaking his employment agreement, which is not, I'm sorry, it's not in dispute. This is not one of those things where there is one side and the other side. It is not in dispute. Based on James O'Keefe's employment agreement and based on what we all saw play out in public, it is not in dispute that James O'Keefe broke his employment agreement. And people can have all the feelings they want about that. But that is what this lawsuit is about. What James just did in that call is lie to people, continue to defame Project Veritas, say, the world is attacking me and everyone just wants to silence me, and I don't know why everyone wants to silence me, and why is it so hard to be a journalist, and can you give me money? Can you give me money to make it easier for me to be a journalist? And I will help you be a journalist. And listen, like, I actually think the idea that James O'Keefe had to like create an online masterclass to teach people how to be citizen journalists, no shade on that at all. That's cool. I'm not upset about James O'Keefe charging money for that. He should charge money for that. That's completely fair game so far as I'm concerned. But that does not, that set aside, what that call was James looking for sympathy, for people to love on him and dote on him and feed. And I'm absolutely convinced now that James O'Keefe is a narcissist. I'm absolutely 100% convinced that James O'Keefe is a narcissist, because it was like tell me how wonderful I am, and tell and you can give me money, and I will take your money, and here are all the ways that you can give me money, and all this stuff, and just like the Project Veritas that is trying to silence me are evil. Guys, Project Veritas is not suing James O'Keefe to silence James O'Keefe. Project Veritas is suing James O'Keefe because he broke his employment agreement. Flagrantly. Belligerently. And I'm going to tell you this too. What James said about like it costs, thousands and thousands of dollars, like tens of thousands of dollars a day to do private security. Well, I'm going to tell you this. When I was touring with Walkaway, they did have private security. They had private security like at all our events. They had private security with us all the time. There are organizations on the right that provide private security for very, very, very little cost. To say that it cost Project Veritas thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a day to have private security for their journalists, I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I do not believe it. I don't believe it for one red second, because I've seen it. I've seen these organizations that provide these services for conservative causes for little to no cost, for like pay their travel and they'll be there. I've seen it. Who cares? Maybe he likes fancy stuff. He's allowed to like fancy stuff. What he's not allowed to do, what he should not be doing at all, is soliciting money so that he can stay in a luxury hotel and have all of this fancy stuff, and not do it because it's supporting the journalism that he's doing, but doing it to feed his own ego. That's what this is, guys. That Spaces was a pity party for James so that James could continue to disparage and run his smear campaign against Project Veritas. And listen, I started out this little dispute on James O'Keefe's side. I actually think that some of the allegations that Project Veritas made are absolute and total bullshit. I still to this day think that some of the allegations that Project Veritas made is absolute and total bullshit. However, well, you should care, Andrea. You should care, because he's going to take your money and not provide you what you're paying for, and basically leave a lot of bodies in his wake. The fact is, guys, let me show you the lawsuit. We still got about, 20 minutes before James O'Keefe is going to be on TimCast, and we're going to watch that when it happens. But for those of you who weren't around for the earlier stream, guys, facts don't care about your feelings, okay? This is a facts don't care about your feelings moment. What this lawsuit is about is James O'Keefe breaking his employment agreement. That's what this is about. It is about him breaking his employment agreement, and that is it. So we can see. I'll go through some of it again. This is about him entering into the employment agreement. This is what the employment agreement says. The employment agreement, and I will put this in the chat. You can look at it for yourself. The employment agreement is in the lawsuit. That's not actually the point. Not actually the point at all. Guys, if you feed narcissists, you get what you get. And don't be surprised when they stab you in the eye. So let me see. Actually, no, let's go over this first. Let's go over this first because I haven't seen this yet. So Project Veritas put out a full timeline, and I haven't seen this yet. And this is the chronology of events. So the only thing that matters in the lawsuit is that James O'Keefe broke his employment agreement. That is all that matters, and that is provably true on the face of it. There is no disputing this. There is nothing that James can say to talk his way out of this. He broke the employment agreement. But let's look at this chronology that Project Veritas has set up, and then if we still have time, we will go back and look at the lawsuit, but you guys can also pull up the lawsuit and check it out. 2020 to 2022, financial expenditures increased commensurate with donations. 2020 to 2021, remediation of personal expenditures were forced via various attempts, CFO refusal to sign paperwork, IRS guidelines, etc., etc. 2022, issues became more onerous with respect to tracking and reconciling internally. Julia, they didn't smear him. James smeared them. Project Veritas did not smear James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe smeared Project Veritas. It is the other way around. James O'Keefe wants you to think Project Veritas smeared him, but in fact, James O'Keefe is the one smearing Project Veritas. Well, this is not actually an opinion, Julia. This is not agree or disagree. This is provable. Facts don't care about your feelings, conservatives. Provable based on the facts, based on calendars, based on the timeline of events. No, they didn't. James O'Keefe smeared Project Veritas. James O'Keefe was the aggressor in this entire situation. Project Veritas laid out a timeline of events, and James O'Keefe did a conservative media tour where he lied and smeared Project Veritas over and over and over and over and over again to millions of people. No, Julia, you don't have your own unique calendar. See, this is why conservatives lose. I'm going to be very blunt. This is why you idiots lose. You don't have your own calendar, Julia. Dates are dates. Facts are facts. Facts don't care about your fee-fees. Julia, do you know how to read a calendar? Do you know how to read a calendar? Do you know how calendars work? Do you know how dates work? Do you know how how timelines work? I can't say chronologically, apparently. Do you know that, Julia, do you know that the month of May comes after the month of February? Do you know how many shows James O'Keefe went on smearing and defaming Project Veritas between the month of May and the month of February, or month of February and month of May? Doesn't really matter which way you go. Do you know, Julia, that James O'Keefe was employed by Project Veritas up until May 15th? Do you know how many shows he went on before May 15th defaming and smearing Project Veritas and lying to make money? Do you have your own calendar? I am not coddling your fee-fees tonight, conservatives. I'm not doing it. Facts are facts. No, they didn't, Shannon. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. James O'Keefe was leading the campaign against Project Veritas from the very beginning. From the very beginning. Look at the timeline of when stuff was released, guys. This is a calendar. Are you capable of reading a calendar? They didn't steal his work, Julia. He stole theirs. He stole their equipment. He took work from Project Veritas and released it separately under his name. They didn't steal anything from him. That is completely unsubstantiated. You guys are literally just making shit up to suck James O'Keefe's cock. Let's read the actual timeline, shall we? Let's look at actual facts. James O'Keefe was the one who released it, Fish Addict. Project Veritas didn't release it. James O'Keefe released it. James O'Keefe was the one that threw the first stone and released what happened to him with the board when the board was still keeping it quiet. And then here is the actual timeline, guys. The board suspended James O'Keefe in a private meeting. This was not public information. And then James O'Keefe leaked what happened publicly in order to smear Project Veritas. James O'Keefe was the one who released it, not Project Veritas. Does everyone understand? Well, then you're going to be taken advantage of, Julia. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy getting fucked. I hope you enjoy getting bent over and fucked, girl. I hope it's worth it. Let's go through this timeline. Wah, wah, wah. You'll be banned for announcing your departure, bitch. Enjoy your block. No care for your feelings, conservatives. Facts don't care about your feelings. Calendars don't care about your feelings. Timelines don't care about your feelings. You can whine and cry all you want. I am unsubscribing. Go put more money in James O'Keefe's pocket. Go right ahead. James O'Keefe will take your money. He'll smile. He'll laugh to himself about what suckers you all are because you can't see right through this shit. We live in reality on this channel. We don't live in the made-up fantasy land of the feelings of conservatives. Back to our actual calendar. January 20th, 2023, fundraising event in Florida. January 24th and 25th, Adam Goldman street interview and our Pfizer investigation is released. January 30th, Twitter Space they hosted a Twitter Spaces about the Pfizer story. James 31st, volatile senior staff meeting leads to request for board intervention to address rampant mistreatment of employees, creating a toxic work environment. One individual perceived consolidated authority to hire and fire employees, as well as the implementation of revised guidance around expenditures. So basically, January 30th was when the shit hit the fan at Project Veritas because James O'Keefe had been mistreating people for a while. February 2nd, James fired the CSO and the CFO, misrepresenting that another board member had approved the firing. So James lied to fire 2 senior staff people at Project Veritas. We knew about this before. This is not new information. February 6th, first in a series of board meetings during which several hours of employees' testimony is heard, James refused to entertain even the possibility of change the financial expenditure process. So James is basically saying, What's happening is James is saying, I'm going to do exactly what I want, and there's nothing you can do to stop me, which is exactly what a narcissist would do. The board suspend James's ability to hire and fire employees for 180 days, revokes his authorization of the company credit card, and restricts his access to donors. James remained CEO and a board member. Project Veritas never fired James O'Keefe. No, the timeline is public, Fish Addict. We all saw this happen. This is public. It is public. There is no disputing the dates. I don't know how else to get you. He went on a fucking conservative media tour. Are you guys stupid? Like, honestly, you are acting stupid right now. He went on a conservative media tour. This is all documented in the public. Every single date is documented in the public. Like, we all saw this. It is mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing. Unbelievable. Really, guys. Really. These are the times when I don't even know why I bother trying to talk sense, because you see something happen in public, the dates are all public, every single action is public, and you're still like, well, I don't believe it happened. Do you have any proof that it happened? It was all public. It was 100% public. No, Julia, it doesn't depend on who you you guys are fucking morons. I'm sorry. Anyone who doesn't see this is a moron and is not smart enough to be on my channel. I'm sorry. Like, that's my final answer. Like, this is retarded. This is actually retarded. You guys can look at public information, a public calendar of events, and you still deny that it's happening because of your fees. Conservatives are like the biggest snowflakes in the history of the world. I just don't even know what else to say. Like, we are living in crazy town if you guys can't acknowledge what has happened. Oh, now the real conservatives are going to come out. Bro, I was at January 6th. Now they're going to be like, you are a secret leftist. You were always a leftist. Why are you betraying us? You were a leftist. Are you a groomer? Are you a pedophile? We're going to start all the conservatives' conspiracy theories are about to come out. I can see this right now because you can't look at a timeline and a calendar. It's in the lawsuit, Fish Addict. It's in the lawsuit. Very clear, with links, with receipts. Everything is unfucking believable how retarded this is. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. February 10th, board meets. Mr. O'Keefe failed to attend, so on February 10th, James didn't even attend the board meeting. And it was at that board meeting that James was suspended from the board without pay. But that doesn't mean he was fired from the company. He still remained at the company. February 16th, O'Keefe sends email demanding the resignation of all officers on the board. February 17th, he formed OMG, well on PTO, unbeknownst to Project Veritas. James O'Keefe was employed by Project Veritas until May 15th. He formed his media group on February 17th. Facts don't care about your feelings, conservatives. You can whine and complain and unsubscribe all you want. I don't really care. If you can't look at a calendar and know that February 17th is several months prior to May 15th, then you are a straight retard and you are not smart enough to consume my content. This is not in dispute, guys. The moment that James O'Keefe formed OMG, on February 17th, he broke his employment agreement. Period. End of conversation. Rottweiler, cons need their secular messiahs as much as the left does. Elevate ideas, not people. This is it is beyond frustrating. Beyond. There was no intention of terminating Mr. O'Keefe when the board convened in February 6th. In fact, he wasn't terminated until May 15th. He wasn't fired until May 15th. That fact alone, that by itself, is enough for Project Veritas to win the lawsuit that they filed against him. February 20th, James films remarks instead of select group of employees. James had not resigned from Project Veritas. February 15th, he announced OMG. He had formed it a month earlier. Multiple additional breaches of the terms of the employment agreement. This is not in dispute. James made false and disparaging comments about Project Veritas during 36 appearances and interviews with various media personalities. All of this is public information, conservatives. Every single time that James O'Keefe went on a show talking about Project Veritas, talking about how Project Veritas is bought and paid for by Pfizer, which isn't even true, he broke his employment agreement. Every single time. Julia, you just got banned. Goodbye. I'm sorry, I can't have people that are that stupid in my audience. They just bring down everyone else. Every single time that James O'Keefe did any media appearance at all, he broke his employment agreement. Every single one. James was terminated from Project Veritas with cause effective May 15th. Several months after he formed O'Keefe Media Group. That is all that matters. That is all that matters. And if you can't see that, guys, I just don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I really don't. So now let's watch TimCast. Fuck it. Let's do it live. More bullshit. It feels really good.
Project Veritas is suing James O'Keefe and his new company, and it's a crazy story. I think it's a death knell for Project Veritas as an organization going after James in this way. But we do have major breaking news related to this. We have right now, apparently a resignation letter from one of the executives at Veritas. I don't know if this is related to the lawsuit against James, but I believe it likely is. Because I have to say, this is, for Project Veritas to sue James is basically them saying, we're done, we're over, and whatever goodwill, whatever good faith, people may have had in us after James left is completely gone. So we're going to go over that. And of course, we have James here to talk about that and more. And then I think that'll be a heavy portion of this show because we're going to be getting into a lot of that story with James here. But we do have other stories about Bud Light being knocked off the top spot. It is no longer the number one beer in this country. Modelo is, which in the United States is not owned by Anheuser-Busch. Internationally it is, but here it's Constellation Brands. They have all the rights to it.
Hang on.
And then we have
I'll turn Tim
far
down
left is actually getting arrested. This is actually a very, very big story. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation is arresting people for fundraising on behalf of these activists. Is
that better?
These, well, I should say extremists because they're attacking a government facility. The left says this is going after legally protected speech and fundraising efforts for legal defense, but I think they're lying. So we'll get into all that. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and pick up your order of cast.
No. We're not simping Tim's coffee today. The amount of havoc that narcissists can wreak on people is truly impressive. It really is. And now that I've fully internalized how to identify how this turns up in public, my God. Tim is absolutely wrong when he says that this is the death nail for Project Veritas. He does not understand what the lawsuit is about. I'm sorry. That is ridiculous. Let me go over to his website, though, and see. All right, I guess we can turn his volume back up now. I just don't want to hear him
server.
listening to Simba's
If you've been a
coffee.
member for at least 6 months, or you sign up at the $25 per month level, you can submit questions and actually call into our Uncensored show to ask us and our guests questions. So I recommend doing that. We're going to have a really, really good after show, I'm sure. There's a lot to talk about. So smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel.
Where's the news?
Share the show with your
Who
friends if you
resigned?
think we do a good job. Joining us tonight to talk about this, of course, is the man himself, Mr. James O'Keefe. You might want to grab your microphone.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Usually my microphones are tiny and hidden.
Yeah. This one is, there's actually two. One's in the way.
All right.
Sir, everybody knows who you are, but how are you?
I'm doing great. A lot has happened since I last saw you guys.
Yeah. OMG, no more Veritas.
OMG.
So give us a quick introduction to where you are now.
Well, I started a company called OMG. I got the t-shirt. I brought some swag for you too.
Oh, very nice. We'll put it on the walls.
OMG, we break stories that make you go, oh my gosh, righteous indignation. It's a private company, subscription-based news organization.
Does anyone know who resigned
March 15th,
from
the
Project
Ides of March.
Veritas? Does anyone know?
It's been very successful. It's a private company. I 100% own it. And I'm very excited about this vision, which is to decentralize journalism because people no longer trust institutions. So we got to equip thousands of people. I've been talking about doing this for many years, Tim. I've talked about it with you.
Yeah.
But I think the time is now. I think I'm ready to go do it. So that's what we're doing.
Right on. And of course, with the breaking news, it's good to have you here. We can talk about what's going on and get to the bottom of it. So thanks for hanging out.
Absolutely.
We got Seamus Coughlin of Freedom Tunes.
My name's Seamus. I make cartoons. I also make podcasts. So I have a podcast called Shamer that airs on Rumble on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I also have the cartoons Tim mentioned. Those are over at Freedom Tunes. We're going to be releasing a funny video tomorrow. We were going to be releasing a debunkers video today, but unfortunately there were some complications. So we're going to be releasing that one in this next week. But I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. And I think you're going to like tomorrow's cartoon as well.
Hi, everyone. Ian Crossland here. Happy to be here. James, good to see you, my man.
Great to see you.
Been what, a year and a half or something
like that.
But we'll talk more. I want to get down to the bottom of this.
And Surge.com. It's a pleasure to meet you, James. And excited for tonight's episode. So let's get started, guys.
We actually have a couple big stories related to this, but I think we'll just start before the breaking story we have. It's a resignation of an executive.
Who?
I think we'll get into that, but we need to give context first. So the first segment we have from TimCast.com, James O'Keefe and Media Group sued by Project Veritas Action Committee. Project Veritas founder allegedly ran amok, put his own interests ahead of the outlet. Former CEO and founder of Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, has been sued by his former outlet. O'Keefe Media Group and two former employees of Project Veritas, R.C. Maxwell and Anthony Iatropoulos, am I pronouncing that right? Iatropoulos?
I believe so, yeah.
Are also included in the lawsuit for allegedly breaching their contracts for the benefit of OMG. They say O'Keefe allegedly ran amok and put his own interest out of Veritas, which asserted the outlet's founder failed in his duties and caused serious and significant damage, according to the lawsuit, which includes Project Veritas Action Group as a plaintiff. The lawsuit notes O'Keefe was suspended but not removed as a member from his former role in Project Veritas as CEO and president of Project Veritas Action Fund on February 6th. So I want to just simplify this. They're saying that, James, you, in the lawsuit, you have no right to start a company. You have no right to do the work you've done. And this was the shocking thing to me.
Moron.
The work that you have historically done before Veritas, during Veritas, and now after, they say is proprietary to Project Veritas.
Mm-hmm.
That's
so.
Not
So
what's
going on in your words?
Oh my God.
How's life? How's life? That's a macro question. May I take a couple minutes to just say a few things?
Oh yeah, say whatever you want.
Here we
grab
go.
that microphone.
Monologue it maybe.
Poor me.
Let me just tell you a
The
story.
world is
How about
against
that?
me.
And I'll end with the answer to your
Everyone is
question.
against me.
Look
Look at all I
this
was
for
able to do, even though
about
everyone
15
was
years.
against me.
I started in college, so I guess that's probably more like
Oh
20 years. But
my
in the major way, 15 years.
God.
And along the way, I have been, there's been a lot of arrows sent my way and at my team, because when you're the tip of the spear,
Poor James.
you just get a lot.
Everyone
of flack, right?
hates us.
I think we all know that. And then
Everyone's
maybe these
preventing
days
me
it's
from
directly
doing
proportional to the amount of
journalism.
flack you get, but
The world is against me.
I mean, I have been.
Will you give me money?
Way back
Will
when
you
I
please give me
received a
money?
letter
Everyone
from
is
Planned
against
Parenthood
us.
threatening to
Like,
jail me
come
for
on.
working with Lila in California because the statute 632 of the penal code. I did the Acorn story with Andrew Breitbart, Hannah Giles. They sued me for recording in Maryland. I had to raise money to pay lawyers. I was arrested by the FBI in January of 2010, falsely accused. They said I entered under false pretense, even though I showed my ID. I spent 3 years on federal probation. And it is while I was on federal probation that I founded Project Veritas in a garage with like no money, credit card debt, negative equity. It was against all odds. And while on federal probation, starting that company, I was sent criminal grand jury subpoenas by the state of New Hampshire in 2011, 2012 for exposés in New Hampshire. I was sued countless times for defamation, including one by Shirley Teeter. I won that in federal district court at jury verdict,
I have
and
beat
nobody
every
reported on it.
lawsuit everywhere, and I will beat this.
I mean,
too.
I could
No,
go
you
on and
won't,
on
James. You
with
really
the
won't.
amount of flack and arrows that my colleagues and I have taken. There was one story where I was chased down the highway by a teachers
I am a
union
martyr.
official in New Jersey, chased down the highway. So now they run away from me, but back then they followed me on Interstate 80 in New Jersey. Alyssa Ploshnik was her name. And all the defamation that almost makes you want to just say, I can't do this anymore, particularly if you're sane and rational. And I could go on, and I don't say these things to come across like I'm a victim. That's not what I'm getting at. I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. I say it because of the human aspects of it. It's different. It's different when you're taking on all these arrows. It hits differently when the arrows come from
I think I might know
the
who
people that
resigned.
are
I think I might
ostensibly
know.
supposed to be your allies. I've taken a lot of arrows. I never
And
thought
if
I'd
he
be
did,
taking
that's
them
too
in the
bad.
back.
But
It just feels different. There's a great article by Dr. Malone, which I want to talk about with you. We'll talk about that later. But I want to say that I agree with you, Tim, that I feel untethered. I think you said this back in, I think it was March or April.
Yeah.
I feel free. After Jobs was fired from Apple, he said, I entered one of the most creative periods of my life. I didn't have the weights that buried me down. In many ways, this is
thank
a
you,
blessing.
Beth.
So I feel liberated. I'm very excited about what I'm doing. I've got 1,100 people on a CRM, citizen journalists around the country.
Wow.
And I'm dispatching them.
Beth, I would never put it
That's
towards
something
the
that I
herb. I
wasn't
don't know
doing
what you're
previously.
talking about, Beth. I would never do
So
such a thing.
I'm very inspired. I'm very hopeful.
Thank you.
And I've decided to kind of take the high road here. I think I need to do that for myself. This is I'm still going through this, whatever this is, and I'm learning about human nature. And of all the things I've learned, I probably learned mostly about like board maintenance. I didn't really, most people don't realize 501c3s are run by boards. They're not owned by anybody. And that creates its own issues. And I never really paid attention to that part of it. I ran Project Veritas like I was the owner. Even though I wasn't, I took responsibility for everything. So it's difficult to watch your own creation and lifeblood attack you. And I've moved on because that's what I've been asked to do. So we're in a very strange
You didn't have to,
situation
James.
in space and time right now, and there's a lot to unpack.
Thank you,
But
James
that's
Jones.
in a
I
nutshell
appreciate it.
where we are.
So what's up
Oh
with this?
my God.
When did you learn of the lawsuit? I mean, this is dropped today, right?
I learned because Will Sumner of the Daily Beast called my phone. And whenever Will Sumner from the Daily Beast calls you, it's usually not, hey,
You gave him your number?
Hey, everyone's got my phone number. Yeah, that's when I learned of it.
Oh, wow. So, well, do you want to, do you have, I don't know if you can actually say anything. I mean, the obvious thing is when you're being sued, you just don't talk about it because you've got to say it in court.
Well, that's the process is the punishment.
Right.
So I was raided by the FBI in November 2021.
You
and the
broke
process
your
is the
employment
punishment
agreement, James.
and I talked about it. But that's the thing. The lawyers say don't talk about it.
Yep.
And I have to make executive decisions about what I can and should say. And that's what this whole thing is designed to do. It's designed to shut me down and silence me.
Tim should have read the lawsuit.
So
they don't even know what it's about. They don't even
I
have
went
any
through the
idea.
lawsuit a little bit, and I have it here.
Employment
pulled up,
agreement.
actually.
Employment agreement.
And their relief. Let me show you the prayer
Employment
for relief. This is what
agreement.
Project Veritas is asking of the
It's
court. It
about the
says,
employment agreement.
declare O'Keefe in
Okay.
breach of his employment agreement, in violation of his fiduciary duties, and in violation of his duty of loyalty.
Exactly.
Declare Eotropolis in breach of... What's up?
Do you want to bring this up?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Declare Eotropolis in breach of the Eotropolis agreement. Declare Maxwell in breach of the Maxwell agreement. Declare OMG to have tortiously interfered with the employment agreement, the Eotropolis agreement, the Maxwell agreement. Declare O'Keefe to have misappropriated plaintiff's trade secrets. That's big right there. Declare O'Keefe liable to indemnify plaintiff for the cost of defense and or liabilities arising from actions taken by him or his errors or omissions. Issue a preliminary and permanent injunction enjoining O'Keefe and OMG from soliciting or contacting plaintiffs' donors, employees, or contractors, disparaging plaintiffs, obtaining, using, or disclosing plaintiffs' confidential information, and keeping and failing to return plaintiffs' property. Now, some of these things, I understand, like, you got to give the property back if you have any, whatever that may be about. But there's some things here that are the trade secrets. What you need to understand in this is, here, you can respond if you can or want to. The way I see it,
breach of the
you started, James, you started Project Veritas. You brought trade secrets. They then, it seems like an institutional
That
capture
is not even the material
with one of these guys on the board apparently having pronouns in his bio or something. All of a sudden, they're telling you you're locked up, you're suspended,
Someone
stop
having
doing your
pronouns
work.
in their bio
So
does
you
not
go off and
usurp
do your
James
own thing.
O'Keefe's
And then they
employment
say,
agreement.
nope, we own those. Everything that you built, we own. Every technique, all the methodology, those are ours,
That's
and you can
not
never use them
materially
again.
what they're suing
That
him for,
effectively
Tim.
says the
Jesus
methods of James
fucking
O'Keefe
Christ.
can never be
That's
used by
not
James
what
O'Keefe
they're
again.
suing him for.
The money that was raised and that I raised, taking lots of black cars around to raise it. I don't know if you get the inside joke there, but they say there's black cars are inappropriate. Was raised to expose corruption, and now is being used in an effort to stifle my efforts to expose corruption.
I want to add to this.
So how does that work?
The black cars thing. They say that
black cars.
You drive around in
That's
these
not
like
a material part of the
SUVs or whatever
lawsuit.
that are very
That
expensive.
is not a
I'll
part
tell
of
you
the
guys a story.
lawsuit.
We did an event in New York, and we had very serious security threats. We had security running around the building looking for individuals who we believe were involved in very serious threats and swatting and things like that. So when the event wraps, and they're like, here's your exit, Mr. Poole. I'm like, yo, there's like 100 people out there and we're under like tight security conditions. So I need to like get out. James says, I have a vehicle for this reason. Come with me. And then James brings me into an SUV. There's a reason why you have vehicles like this.
Fine.
To use that
That's
against
not
you
part
when
of
you
the
are the target
lawsuit,
of
Tim.
threats, death threats, like ridiculous law enforcement raids.
I mean,
Thank you. That's not
Who's
who I
funding
thought
this?
resigned. So, okay. Thank you, Bot.
What
I
money are they
appreciate
using
that.
to pay for this? Is it 501c3 money? I mean,
donors who gave
No,
to Veritas are
they
paying
did
them
not-
to sue you.
They did not read the lawsuit.
I mean, bear with me
They
for a
did not
minute.
read
It's
the
going to take
lawsuit
about
at
90
all.
seconds. I want to read something to you. You know, Dr. Malone, the guy who did the stories
Oh
about
my
COVID,
God!
and
yeah.
very smart,
Yeah. Fantastic.
very smart guy. Very,
Robert Malone.
I've become pretty close to him recently. I was having dinner with
Let
him.
me
He wrote
read
this a
you
few
this
months ago. I just
top
want you to
piece.
listen. Just bear
Robert
with me for
Malone
2
is
minutes.
defending me.
Remember that
For
story about
10
Pfizer with the
minutes?
cage fight? This happened a few days after that. These are Malone's words, and I just want to read them
Oh,
for you.
God.
This is profound.
He
He wrote this on like a Substack
profound
or something.
defense of me.
Without knowing the details of all this,
You guys have got to be able to see through this.
this
right?
episode has all the earmarks of a terrible
Hang on.
institutional problem.
We just heard this earlier, so I don't want to play it again. If you like, because James O'Keefe literally read this on his Twitter space earlier. This is not new information. We've already heard this, guys. If you cannot see through this, you have to be able to see through this, guys. I'm sorry. I started out this whole debacle on James O'Keefe's side. I really did. I think that some of the accusations that James O'Keefe, I think some of the accusations that Project Veritas made against James O'Keefe are bullshit. None of that changes the fact that James O'Keefe openly and flagrantly broke his employment agreement with Project Veritas. Everything that lawsuit is about, that Tim has not read, that Tim is not asking him about, that James O'Keefe is not acknowledging. This is a calendar. James O'Keefe formed his media group on February 17th. He was not terminated by Project Veritas until May 15th. That is all that matters. He went on a conservative media tour between February and May that smeared and defamed Project Veritas and lied about them being bought and paid for by Pfizer. There is no evidence of that. The black cars have nothing to do with it. Has nothing to do with it at all. This is only about James O'Keefe, while he had a fiduciary responsibility to Project Veritas, broke his signed employment agreement. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Thank you, Amelia. We'll turn the sound back up in a second. Shauna, I'm a conservative and Carlin said nothing wrong. I mean, my God. My God, guys.
Committee whose job is to hire and fire the CEO, but they're not meant to manage the company. They're not meant to manage the company. They're supposed to put a leader in charge because you can't lead by committee. That's Stalin-esque. The board hires the president hires and fires the staff. The board is unpaid, which usually means they have no reason to be involved in the operations in the first place. But all the while, they have a sense that they should be controlling things, even though they rarely understand what's going on. So that was Malone.
That's entirely James O'Keefe's fault.
Spot on.
Spot on.
His fault
the looking
for
backwards thing is
starting
brilliant.
the company
They attacked all the things that you were doing without pointing out Veritas is extremely successful because of the things you have done and continue to do. They stop it in this single moment.
This did not
out of the
happen.
entire context of
This
the
did
life
not
of Veritas
happen.
and say,
No.
look at these things he just did, instead of saying, look at the similar things he's been doing that have led to our success. So
Yes.
they can make it seem like
that's not what
Veritas
this
was
is about.
always where it was, and only now are these things causing problems.
Well, the moment of greatest.
If anyone broke Tim Pool's employment agreement, like James O'Keefe broke Project Veritas's employment agreement, Tim Pool would sue them in half a second and he wouldn't even think twice about it. Really think about that.
There's a lot of evil in the world. I think the evil is getting more evil, but there's also a lot of good. And
Exactly.
I saw a lot of, I mean, it's a blessing because
use the store's
I was
money to do
overtaken
it.
by a sense of gratitude for all the really good people that were around me. And I was overtaken with a sense of gratitude to see who people really are. And you need to be very strong if you're going to do this. Again, another cliche. We think we know what that means. You don't know what that means until you've been raided, until you've been targeted and attacked and sued and defamed. And the more effective you are at your mission, the more those people are going to do that to the people around you.
Over and
So you
over
better
and over
surround
again,
yourself with
tells you
really
exactly what he's
strong
doing.
humans
He is selling
who can withstand
you a
blistering
narrative.
attacks, whether they're true or not, doesn't matter.
James
These
O'Keefe
are-
is
these are- this is
selling
kind of
a narrative.
allegory
That's
for,
why
I
he's
think, what
repeating the
we're
same
going through in the
story
country
over
right
and
now. I
over and
think this
over
is
and
sort
over
of
and over.
where we are.
He is
It
selling
feels like Veritas
a
was captured.
narrative.
Yeah.
And it seems like the purpose of this suit and everything they've done has been to stop and to silence you.
Well, I've moved on. I've started a new deal. We just posted the RFK podcast, which is really great. I don't know if you've seen that. Just posted today. We
This
talk
is
about fear,
so
his uncle
mind-boggling.
JFK. I've
How
got
can
reporters
people
as
not
I
see
speak
this?
undercover everywhere. I'm trying to do my job. I'm focused on the future, and the forward looking glass of a car is bigger than your rear view mirror.
But this is why it seems to me ideological, because you've moved on.
Well,
and look. After you
Seems
leave Veritas,
ideological if
everybody
you haven't
says
read
James
it,
O'Keefe
Tim.
is Veritas. People are very
You haven't
critical of
read
Project
it.
Veritas. Donors came out in your defense. Everyone and Veritas their leadership, they could have come out and said, fine, look, guys, we want to keep doing good work. We wish James the best. You know, you may not be happy with how things went, but we're going to try and make two good things out of this instead of just a fight. The fact that they've gone after you, this says to me, it is more about ideology, because if Veritas was truly trying to do good work, they would realize that this lawsuit is basically a stake in the heart of Veritas. What little was left that people believed in with Project Veritas is now completely gone because they're attacking you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if there are issues with what you were doing were truly the things that they claimed they were when they ousted you, they should have no problem with you going and doing your own thing.
I got the feeling that it was personal. Like I wasn't around you when you were going through it, but like I imagine you were high stress and you were just like, I don't know if you were lashing out at people or like just like making demands, and then they were like, we've had enough of them, we can't take them anymore. and then they just. But like, are you still on contract with Veritas?
No, I was
until
fired
May
on
15th.
February 10th.
No, no,
they
lie,
say they never
lie,
fired you.
Lie.
I say they did,
Lie.
and our lawyers say
Lie.
they did. February 10th.
James
Because
O'Keefe is lying.
if you're still on
He is
contract, then there are
lying.
clauses
He
usually in
is
bylaws for
lying.
501c3s where the board has to agree that you can make private profit off of anything related to the foundation. But if you're not on contract with them, that's another story. I think I'm not a lawyer, but that's what I would surmise.
Well, we've got breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, in relation to this. So we received a message from April Moss. She is a CBS Detroit whistleblower, a meteorologist, whose story became public in June of 2021.
He was not fired
She
on
says that
February 10th.
she's
That is a
obtained an exclusive copy of a resignation letter from Dan Strack of Project Veritas, and that she stands by James O'Keefe, currently working on the story. And there is some personal information, so I'm not going to show the email, but I do have it. It says, "Today I sent the following email to the board of directors and leadership. Project Veritas board of directors. Please take this email as notification of my resignation as executive director of Project Veritas and Project Veritas Action. I am honored to have worked alongside some of the most dedicated and driven people I've ever met. I promise I gave it my all. I want you to know how much in the past 15 months have meant to me. To work with and for you all has been incredible. The past 4 months have been the biggest challenge I suspect most of us have ever faced, at least in our professional careers. It is important to me that you know I tried my best. I know you did as well. I am sorry if I let you down. Why now? It's complicated. The truth is that I no longer know how to help. I will never forget any of you. You are amazing. The world needs you. Take care of each other. If I can ever be helpful to you at all, please reach out. I hope our paths cross again." And that's Dan Strack. So you know him, obviously.
Yes, he worked for Goldman Sachs, and he was the executive director that I hired in 2022.
2022. So I don't know. Do you know anything about it? He's resigning. I mean, is this related to the lawsuit?
That's news to me. And you tell me what you think. I mean,
I don't know if this. So we're receiving it from another reporter and whistleblower.
Well, April was a whistleblower for CBS News. She was a whistleblower like 2 years ago. She was a meteorologist, and she went live on the air and said she's going to expose her own network. So she's gone on to do other reporting.
We've not received confirmation from Project Veritas that he has resigned.
It's very clear what happened based
so
on
other
the
than
timeline.
That,
it's
I don't
very,
know
very clear.
if you can say it's
lied.
confirmed or whether or not we know for sure that he's actually resigned, but it seems plausible at the very least. I try to be a bit more careful on these things.
Right.
I'd rather have a statement from Project Veritas confirming, yes, he did resign. Right.
It was so I'd have to see what April is there a picture or something or
there's a screenshot of the resignation email. Looks like from someone's very dirty laptop. Yeah. And then she just says she has obtained an exclusive copy of resignation letter from Dan.
Well,
Strack.
if that's true, then Dan's resigned. I mean, the number 2 guy at PV is out. I don't know when, but
I don't know when either.
It's interesting timing. It's interesting timing.
I think it may be related to the lawsuit.
I mean, the role of a board at a nonprofit is to hire and fire the CEO, which is what a board should do. What a board should not do is run the company.
Not the only.
You can't lead by
committee.
It doesn't work.
That's not true, James.
So
that's a blatant lie.
That's
Another
very interesting
lie.
timing, and there's obviously more to the story there.
God
I think his resignation is probably related to the lawsuit. And I have to imagine
I
look,
hate it.
If you work for Veritas, especially as Veritas is suing James O'Keefe, I mean, your career is going to get nuked. Where are you going to go? Everyone in the media has lied about you and called you propaganda, fake news, and everything. So you're not going to CNN. Now Veritas is attacking its founder, who is beloved by the community. So you're basically saying if you keep working there,
well, there needs to be a leader. Like people. There needs to be a person. Like from my understanding of companies, is that again, if there's a board, they hire and fire the guy at the top. So the question is, who's in charge?
That's not the only thing the board does, James.
A board doesn't run. A board doesn't run a company. A board appoints the person that runs the company.
Philip, you are 100% right. We'll
but
talk
there has
about
to be.
You are right.
So
he tried to pressure the board into taking it back
issue
and giving
with
his carte
the
blanche.
reality that there needs to be someone at the top? Is that the issue? Because whoever it is, they're going to be faced with the same dilemma that I have.
This is exactly correct. Tim
I have to raise a lot of money.
Philip is correct.
Let me go back to this. Like I have to pay lawyers to defend myself with this deal. I'm not a wealthy man. For what I was raising 25 million a year. That's 100,000 a day. 100. That's if you're working 14-hour day, that's thousands of dollars an hour. So if I have to get from
I agree,
point A to
Shauna.
point B, yeah, I'm going to get in an SUV
Because he
because I'm
didn't
on the
read the
phone with
lawsuit and
sources
he didn't
while with my
understand the
other phone
lawsuit or what the
on the phone with a
lawsuit's
donor,
about.
while with my toe on the phone with an employee while typing on my laptop, because that's what I do.
Jenna, exactly.
You need someone
exactly
who's going to walk through walls.
And,
and by the
Thank
way,
you, Shauna, for
what
the
is
super
true?
chat. This is
And this is
exactly
a
right,
mistake.
guys.
I will admit a fault of mine.
Project Veritas
On Monday
took
morning, I
control
don't
away
ask
from
how your
James
weekend
O'Keefe.
was.
He wanted it back.
I don't say how was your
He
Thanksgiving.
tried to get it back with Project Veritas.
I probably did
it
that
didn't
twice.
work. He left,
Should a
smeared
good
them
leader ask you about that? Probably.
to try to build his own
But
thing.
I'm so busy trying to raise money for all these freaking lawyers to defend myself from all these lawsuits, because everyone wants me to fight back and stand on principle and stand on truth and not bend over and take it and settle. So there's a price to pay to not bending over.
This is a fundraising
Do you
tour.
think it was a mistake
This is a
starting Veritas as a
fundraising tour.
nonprofit?
I don't regret anything
Yes,
in
it
my
was.
life
Yes, it
because
was, but
everything that
that's a
I have
different
been
thing.
through has taught me so much.
God
In many ways,
damn.
this is not a new story. There's nothing new under the sun. But in many ways, this is a new
Exactly, bot. Now all the donations go to James.
no one's ever
and they're
gotten
not
this far in
donations.
the
They're
video
not,
game.
They're not tax deductible. It's
I
not
mean,
a nonprofit.
I'm happy that I went through what I went through.
Which is fine if
because
he's
I
doing
had
good work.
at the time,
but,
I had to go through that. It was
there's
like,
nothing wrong with making a profit.
I was in a garage in a 300 square foot, like
Here we go
halfway
again.
house
Sob
looking
story.
piece
Sob
of
story.
shit garage.
Everyone's against
with
me.
negative
Everyone's
equity.
against me.
And I'm like, well, I got to make
built
the
all
video.
this
But in order to make the
myself.
video, I got to buy a
Everyone's
microphone.
against me.
In order to buy the
Everyone's
microphone,
against
I got to
me.
go get money.
The world is
In order to get
against
money,
me.
I got to raise
I
money.
need
Okay, I
money,
put the video out.
money,
Okay, now I'm being
money,
threatened with
money,
lawsuits. I got to
money.
raise money to pay
Like,
lawyers. So what
same
vehicle do I need to get the money to raise? Okay, I get into 501c3. Okay, to get a 501c3, I need a board. Let me get the board. It was like, it was a means to an end.
Yeah. And the way I see it now is it's remarkable to see that over the span of 13 years, 12 and a half, 13 years, you build up to the point of $25 million a year.
7 million on lawyers.
7
mil on lawyers
on average every year, or
that's
in
why
the
everyone
later-
last year 5. It was in the last few years 4.5, 5,
By the way,
7,
guys,
7 million.
I don't see anything wrong with James O'Keefe making money. Like that's the American way.
7
but
million.
this is a
I have
narrative.
lawyers making over $1 million a year, which is double my salary. You can look that up.
Apparently, some lawyers are still making some money off of Project Veritas.
And I got to raise money to defend myself here. With the process is the punishment. How are you gonna raise $500,000? People say, how do you do that? If you go to my Telegram page, there's a link. There's a C4 that we have. I'm not on the board. I'll tweet it. You can donate. But Tim, I could write 30 war stories. I was in court last September in DC, federal court, civil trial. They sued me for breach of fiduciary duty, trespass, and some other things. Jury trial, Democracy Partners, Bob Creamer.
Right.
That was the video inciting violence.
Yeah.
I was in a sensory deprivation chamber, aka a federal courtroom, for like a week and a half in Washington, D.C., which is its own hellhole, because when you're in DC for 24 hours, it's like a spiritual attack against you.
Yeah.
And there's a jury, and there's all these lawyers, and I'm on the witness stand.
It is.
And I could have probably settled
It's
the
amazing
lawsuit.
to hear the
I don't know,
space in
for,
this back to back, isn't
something, a couple $100,000,
it? You can
maybe
hear it
100
now
grand.
when you hear
But I
all
chose
the
to do
different
what I thought was
levels
the
of
right thing
the
and
narrative.
not settle it and go to the Supreme Court if I had to. Millions.
Yep.
Over $1 million spent. It was the right thing to do. But to do that, you have to
Fish Addict,
you
as we
have
have
to walk
covered
through
18
walls.
ways from Sunday.
You have to do
the
things that people don't want to
allegations
do. Like
that you
Michael
are
Jordan
commenting
said,
on
leadership has a
have
price.
nothing
And victory
to
has a
do
price.
with the employment agreement.
Are
they
we
have
willing to pay it?
nothing to do with it. Nothing
know
to do
why,
with it at all. This is a deflection. It has
news
nothing
like
to do
what
with
you
the
do
lawsuit.
is so fleeting. I mean, I think you do, but
Nothing
for the
to
audience, the
do
rhetorical
with
you.
it.
I've
It
told this story
doesn't
before
matter
because
if they're
I've encountered
true.
this
It
literally
doesn't
talking
fucking
to
matter. I
heads of
don't
media.
know what's so hard to understand.
You get a
It
guy who
doesn't
comes
matter.
into, you get a journalist or a media guy, and he goes to the
God
investors and says,
damn.
I want to do this investigative reporting and expose corporate and governmental malfeasance. I need investment capital to get started. And the venture capitalists and the business guys go, awesome, fantastic. This sounds really, really good. So what's our return? And you say, well, this kind of news does really, really well. Millions of views, 10 million views, 20 million views. It's amazing. And we can sign up people to be members, support our work. So, you know, we could be looking at a very lucrative enterprise and say, yeah, but timeline wise, when are you going to get the story? When's the first big scoop?
Right.
And you say, well, I don't know.
Because it's
We have to do the
ridiculous because
investigation.
you're talking
And they
about
say, how
things
much
that
does that
don't
cost?
matter, like
That's
a
going to
fucking
cost
retard. You can't look
$300,000
like
for
a
the
calendar.
preliminary
You are
investigation.
so much
And they say,
smarter
and how
than
much do I
this.
get back from that? Well,
You're
we
so
don't
much
know.
smarter
We're
than this.
investigating a story.
Your
We have no
comment has
guarantee
nothing
the
to do
story
with the
pans out the
lawsuit.
way we think it's
Nothing
going
to
to.
do with it.
And they
Nothing
say,
to do with
I
the
am not
timeline.
going to
Nothing
invest
to do with the
millions
facts.
of dollars or
Nothing
even
to do
300,000
with
unless
what
you
is
tell me
actually
when I
going
get my
on.
money back.
You're making shit
Then
up
someone
to
else walks in
deflect
the room
because you're
and
acting
says,
like a retard.
don't listen to that guy. I'm going to launch a news company
said
and
it.
I'm going to get you a $2 million return in 3 years. And they go, oh, wow, how are you going to do it? We're going to publish clickbait garbage nonsense and complain about people's politics.
Because
and they
it's
go,
cheap.
bang.
Because you work for Vice, right?
That's right.
Shane Smith.
Yep.
It's funny. Shane Smith, my executive assistant's name is Shane Smith with a Y, not an
Exactly the same
and
story. he just
Vice's
told on his
unique
face.
value proposition
Exactly the
was
same.
we go there. I think I
And-
saw a billboard in New York Times, or Times Square, we go there.
Yeah, something like that.
So
It's
their
been a long
unique
time.
value proposition was they actually go on the location they're reporting on.
And then around 2014, 15 is when things started to shift. And they said, well, you know, and then they started relying, presumably, this is my opinion, more on ridiculous clickbait articles. And
So this is a really important point. Investigative
I
reporting
don't know who you are
is
on
like
Twitter, Tom J. I
outrageously
don't know what you
expensive,
said. So
like beyond
email
what people
me
can
and,
fathom.
like, let me know your
Because
handle.
even sending people like flights, hotels,
But
it
I don't
costs
know
a
what
lot
to tell
more
ya.
nowadays. Lawsuits. I mean, we're talking. You're right. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to do one story.
I appreciate the
So
super
if you're
chat.
a businessman, if you're a venture capitalist and you want to make a profit on this, good luck. Good luck to you.
Yes,
you know what our
Fish
budget
Addict.
was
Wow, that
for
you can't look at a calendar.
a 3-day
Wow.
shoot. We got a story,
Wow, that
boom,
you
breaking.
can't look at a
There's
calendar.
civil unrest happening in this country.
Wow.
The president may get ousted. We're sending a crew down, 50 grand. It's a bigger story. It's going to take a week or 2 weekends, 100, 200 grand. And that was cheap. You've got salaries, camera equipment, travel. You got to have insurance on a $30,000.
Listen, guys, if you can't put your feelings aside and look at facts when they are presented to you, calendars don't care about your feelings. They don't. Contracts don't care about your feelings. Sob stories about how hard life has been has nothing to do with what is going on. I do not. Can someone please explain to me why it is so hard to wrap your head around this? Can someone please explain to me why people cannot look at a calendar and know that May 15th came after February 17th? This is not even difficult, guys. This is elementary. This is elementary school. Do you really think that you are going to be able to solve anything if you can't look at a fucking calendar and know what the truth is? Do you really think that you are ever going to be able to see through all the bullshit that is served at you day after day after day after day after day if you can't look at a calendar and know what the fucking truth is?
The core value, my tenet was whatever it does cost, I will get that money to do that thing. So that was my raison d'etre was I'm going to go do this project, or I'm going to go
there
get
is
the
not
story.
more to it,
If
Fish
it cost me
Addict.
1.4 million to get it, I'll find a way to get the money so that I can do the thing.
None of
Now
that has anything
it's
to do
let's
with
get
it.
the money. Forget the
You are
thing. Let's
making
focus on the
shit
pursuit of that thing over there.
You are
Journalism
making
is anathema to the
up.
commercial
You are
imperative.
Yes.
inventing
And you know what I think happens with,
aren't
let's just say,
even
insert
relevant
hypothetical
to
media
what the
nonprofit.
lawsuit is about.
After a certain amount of years, people get involved and they start saying, hey, we're making $25 million a year. That story's a little bit risky. I kind of like the way things are going.
That's big money. Now, I never thought of it that way because I work so hard. I mean, I worked so hard to raise that, and I never.
How James O'Keefe is pulling the wool over everyone's eyes is infuriating. This is amazing to watch. It's not what the lawsuit is about. It is not what the lawsuit is about in any way. The lawsuit is about a breach of the employment agreement. That is all the lawsuit is about. That is all that matters, is a breach of the employment agreement. Every single one of those allegations could be false, and it would still not make any difference at all because James O'Keefe openly and blatantly and egregiously violated his employment agreement. And he did so even if every single one of those allegations proves to be false. So you are making shit up. You are not listening to the 15 times I have explained this in the last 2 hours. And it's infuriating because you are smarter than this. You are smarter than this, and you are allowing yourself to be lied to by someone who is desperate for money and fame and accolades and puts himself before everyone else around him. Unfucking believable. This is the worst black pill I've ever had right here, is watching how people can't even look at a calendar and know what's going on, that people are that fucking stupid that they can't look at a calendar. My God.
Like, not only are we winning, but James is flaunting his success to show all of the corruption and to inspire young people that there's a path to success.
Well,
to
Elon
luxury.
Musk says the private transportation is the one thing that can maximize your time, because you can have 2 meetings or 3 meetings in a day. Like, there was one time
absolutely.
I woke up in New York, I had a meeting. I went to Wisconsin, I had a meeting, and I had Arizona. I had 3 meetings in one day. And you're running a company. You have to, you're raising, spending $100,000 a day. Your time. This is basic economics. It's so valuable that it becomes imperative for you to get from this point to this point. Obviously, everyone knows that. But Tim, we did a story on OMG. Speaking of my new company, we did a story on the FEC. We knocked on doors, and we just knocked on doors. It was expensive. We had to go to Maryland. We got to go here. We got to go there.
Yes, they did.
But now citizens are knocking on doors.
God,
they're inspired. They're running around the country. What can I do? It's a fraction of the budget of these media corporations, and we're still getting results. So
this is what people need to realize. The path to luxury, wealth, comfort, high society has typically been, for a long time, garbage. It has been people going on TV with big fake butts. And that's fine if you like it. I got no beef. But I've always asked myself, how come firefighters don't get paid more money? Oh, it's like, we can't put it in the budget. We can't. Well, police salaries are super low. These leftists want to abolish the police. They complain about cops. Like, well, cops don't get paid very well. It's not a job people want to do and feel good and safe doing.
How are we ever going to get people to see what is actually going on in the world if people are incapable of looking at a calendar and knowing what the truth is? These are the days that I just want to give up and just quit all of this. Because if you guys can't look at a calendar and know what's going on, you can't read a lawsuit that is very clear, that is not written in legalese, and know what's going on, that you ignore all of the information that we have discussed about, like, narcissism, that you've ignored all of the resources, and you can't look past all of this and get straight to the facts, which is James O'Keefe was not fired on February 10th. He openly and blatantly lied when he said he was fired on February 10th. He was not fired on February 10th. He wasn't fired until May 15th. And in between February 10th and May 15th, he violated his employment agreement in like 17 different goddamn ways. And if people can't get that, and people can't realize that it has nothing to do with any of the other bullshit, I don't know how we're ever going to do anything of value. I really don't. I really, really don't.
In the SDNY, a jury trial,
God damn
in order to issue an injunction against me to stop exposing corruption by the organization that I founded,
no,
which is
he didn't.
which mission
this
is the stated mission is to expose corruption.
James O'Keefe's
and
smear
they've issued
campaign.
an
This
injunction
is
to stop
real.
the founder from exposing corruption.
When James O'Keefe got suspended and his control was taken away from him at Project Veritas, James O'Keefe spread the smear campaign that he was forced out because of Pfizer. There is zero evidence that he was forced out because of Pfizer. Zero, 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 zero. No evidence, no receipts, no nothing. It is a made-up story that James O'Keefe made up and spread to smear Project Veritas because they took away his control. That is not true. It is not fucking real.
Instead, and I don't mean to just put this on you. It's something everybody has in their mind, that if you're going to do nonprofit work, you should be poor. And not literally every single person, but I used to do nonprofit fundraising. And I have to explain to people, they're like, did you hear the CEO of that nonprofit gets paid $1 million? And I was like, good. Wow.
Which nonprofit? I didn't know you did that.
Oh, I did fundraising for a whole bunch. I did fundraising for Greenpeace. I worked for the PERG groups.
Oh, that's right.
A handful of others. Some of those are 501c4s.
He had
Some
hidden
of them
cameras there. He actually saw you working.
You would be surprised. It's actually a good place to probably have some.
I think you're right, Tim. I think there's nothing wrong with taking a
Do I have
helicopter.
any proof? Yes, I have
Taking a helicopter home.
I have a
I know
calendar.
people
Yes,
who do
I
that.
do, a
I won't name
calendar.
them, but that's a standard industry practice. If you're a 20, 30, 40, $50 million company, you get home so you can get a good night's sleep, so you can wake up fresh and go to work and go to meetings and go travel.
But
it's just part of business.
I think the issue is that
You know?
people look at things like hopping on a private jet or a private car as luxury instead of necessity.
Well, what is the root of all socialism? What is the socialism? Envy.
It is fact that James O'Keefe lied. Hang on.
Yeah.
I didn't mean
Envy.
to pause
What
that.
is-
Hang on. Let's just
My point is this.
It is a fact that James O'Keefe was not fired on February 10th. He was suspended from his position pending an investigation, and he had his access to the donors removed on February 10th. That is an established fact. It is a fact. And then, in less than a week later, because James O'Keefe was pissed off, he formed his own separate competing media group while he was still under contract and still on the board of directors of Project Veritas. This is fact. This is not in dispute. This is fact. God damn.
Got my swag here. OMG Keefe Media Group, so that when they type in OMG, it can't be censored because it's a commonly used acronym on social media.
That's brilliant.
This is a very ambitious
They
vision.
did not tell him he was fired. They did not. That is made up. You have no evidence that that happened because it didn't happen. Project Veritas released multiple statements at that time saying James O'Keefe is not fired. They were very, very clear at that time. I know because I was covering it. He was not fired. He was suspended pending an investigation. He did not resign. Being suspended is not the same thing as fired. He was still a member of the board of directors. He was still the CEO of the organization. We've already established this several times over. I don't know why this is hard to understand. They literally released statements saying this.
And subscribe. It's $20 a month, and
Now
you
let's all
can
go
get
give
access
James
to this
O'Keefe
information.
money because he's
We
just
have
so
a
put
database of like
upon.
1,100 people, and we're deploying them. And we're doing, as I speak,
Well,
they're in the
according
field
to
recording.
documents and facts
Follow-ups
and
on
calendars
Pfizer, the
and not made
FDA,
up
the
shit
government,
that you guys
the
are
deep
making
state,
up.
the administrative state, the three-letter
God
agencies, school
damn.
boards, teachers, media companies.
Moron.
We want to help everyone, but when
Ray,
people
I'm
say,
sorry,
"Hey
you're
James,
too
can you
stupid to
please
be
go
in
do
my
this
chat.
story?"
Go
Now I'm
away.
saying, "No, you go do that
Too
story."
stupid to be in my chat.
It's on you.
I cannot
I'll give you a
take it, guys.
camera.
This
I'll
is gonna
ship
be
you
a
a
good
$500
weeding out
camera.
mechanism.
I'll teach you, but you got to figure it out because I
God
can't do it all
damn.
myself. It's not sustainable. One of our biggest stories is now getting.
He was suspended without pay and still a member of the board of directors and still the CEO of the organization. It does not matter if it was with or without pay. It makes no difference at all. He was not fired. And even if he was, the employment agreement extended a year beyond his termination date. So even if James O'Keefe is telling the truth, which he is not telling the truth, the employment agreement still was in effect. So it doesn't even matter. Facts don't care about your feelings. That's reality, guys. That's reality.
But that's the thing. Writing an article about Star Trek being
God
racist
damn.
is super easy.
Money. Yep.
And what's happening is this kind of media is becoming dominant, and then it results in surface level understanding of the world, hyperpolarization, and people focusing on things that are substantially less important. You get YouTube channels where they're like, we're going to make our 160th video about Dave Rubin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but Dave Rubin's a guy on YouTube. Like you can talk about the president. I think we talked about David Pakman, and I unfairly criticized him for talking about Trump so much. And now I realize, no, that's actually fine. Like, if you're going to talk about the president 1,000 times, I totally get it. You're right. You should. If you're going to talk about AOC, if you're going to talk about people in positions of power and authority, heads of industry, That I understand. If you're going to claim that a YouTuber who ranks at like number 1,000, no, that's just vapid e-drama. But it's easy to make. It riles people up at the lowest common denominator. It makes money.
Tim, shut the fuck
and
up. You
it's
do
very
clickbait
difficult to do
bullshit
the
all the time.
research.
People want to
You do
hear
clickbait
their
bullshit
opinion
literally
being
every
uttered by
single day,
somebody else,
Tim.
but that doesn't actually change anything. I mean, why don't journalists do this? My theory is they don't do it because
Yes,
if
Starry,
you
I
actually
agree
point
with
a
this. He was
camcorder or
trying
a
to
hidden
get Project
camera in
Veritas
any
to fire him.
direction
I
in a bureau
100% agree
or a
with you.
government
Yes.
office, it'll contradict what you see on television.
Yeah,
like reality contradicts narrative. And the other thing is, I think I've always said that we hold a mirror up to people and they don't like what it is that they see. They hate the person who holds the mirror up to them. So, I mean, going back to the citizen journalist thing, we had people that are so humbled that we reached out to them. This Texas people I was speaking to, there's a group of people exposing something local in Texas, and she was shocked that OMG, that James O'Keefe would send her a camera like, well, you're going after like
You're
Pfizer
literally
and the
making
Pentagon
shit
and
up, and you're
the deep
very
state. So
close
why would
to
you talk to us?
convincing me
Like,
that
well,
you
gotta
are
start
not
local,
smart
gotta go to
enough
your
to be in
local
my
school board meeting, right?
audience.
But Tim, you were downstairs with me
Because
and
you
I
keep
was on the
literally
Twitter
making
Spaces
shit up and not listening.
and someone said, well, I
And
don't
if
know
you
where to
can't
start.
take
And I
in
said, have you gone to
information
your
and
school board
process
meeting yet? She
information
said,
and
no,
see
I didn't know I
reality
could.
and
Don't
continue
I have
to
to have a
hinge
kid in school? I
yourself
was like,
into
no,
lunacy
you're a
that
taxpayer.
has
Go to
no
your school board
basis in
meeting. Yeah.
reality
Put on these
because
little
it's
cameras and
convenient to your
talk to people in the
feelings,
hallway
you
and
are
see what you
not
come up
smart
with.
enough to be
So
in my
we're starting
audience.
there.
Go away.
Do you hire them, or do you have them as contractors, or do you just
I'm not
No.
like
send them
Tim Pool. I'm
stuff
not
to
going
get
to kiss
We
your
send
ass.
them. We have a form on our website, o'keefemediagroup.com. You click on the link and there's a citizen journalist request form, and we just ship them a camera, provided they're not insane or stupid. Insane or stupid. We'll send you a camera, and you'll have to maybe perhaps sign a waiver, and then we'll pay you. We had a young woman in
No,
Minnesota
Peter.
record
No.
her
No.
official.
Whether the board was doing anything behind the scenes, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. What the board was doing doesn't fucking matter. How James O'Keefe treated employees doesn't fucking matter. How James O'Keefe spent the money and went in helicopters and got fancy hotel rooms, it doesn't fucking matter. None of this fucking matters. The only thing that matters is the employment agreement. That is all that matters. That is all that matters in this scenario. Anything outside of the agreement that James O'Keefe signed and then broke, provable by a fucking calendar, nothing else matters outside of that. Everything that happened between February 10th and May 15th is all that matters in reference to this lawsuit. Nothing else fucking matters. The rest of this is made up bullshit. That is all it is. That's it. It's fantasy. It is lunacy. It has nothing to do with the lawsuit. It is not hinged into reality at all. Do I need to keep repeating myself? Because I'm more than happy to keep repeating myself, because you guys are making me want to go beat my head against a wall right now with your willful ignorance about what is important in regards to this lawsuit and what is not important in regards to this lawsuit. James O'Keefe's sob story is not important in regards to this lawsuit. James O'Keefe sending out cameras to 1,100 people is not important in regards to this lawsuit. All that matters is that between February 10th and May 15th, James O'Keefe formed a competing group, broke his employment agreement, wooed employees, poached employees from Project Veritas, used the Project Veritas donors list, broke like 17 layers of his employment agreement. That is all that matters. And he did it while he was still a member of the Project Veritas board of directors. I will keep repeating this as much as I have to for people to get this. None of what you know, there has not been one single objection in the chat so far that actually pertains to what the lawsuit actually is and what it is about. And facts do not care about your feelings. You can whine and cry and stomp away all you want, and it will still make no difference. Unfucking believable, truly.
And that's its own form of torture. But that's the price you pay.
So for this company, OMG, for O'Keefe Media Group, is it like, you're obviously private right now, do you have any ambition to take it public?
That's such a. I'm taking it one week, 1 month
It
at a
is
time.
has
Probably
nothing.
not. I mean, I'm.
What happened to James O'Keefe has nothing to do with what happened to Tucker Carlson. These are not the same thing. These are not remotely the same thing. These are not in the same universe of being the same thing. These are not remotely fucking connected. Any comparison between the two is a logical fallacy. God damn it.
Pay for legal defense to pay for lawyers, and private citizen, which is a 501c3. Liberty Guard and private citizen. If you want to donate and get a tax deduction to help pay our legal costs, you can donate to those organizations.
Are you with them? Do you work for them?
No, their boards just are. Their mission is to defend citizens who are being under attack and being silenced, like in this case. So they'll take donations to support.
All right, hang
paying
on.
the attorneys.
Let me get you.
It's just
unblocked,
insane
Andre.
how much of this is lawyers and just legal fees. and
Nonstop.
attorneys.
People have no. People have no idea.
I didn't. I mean, well, I knew that for what you were doing, you ended up getting sued a number of times, so I figured that was a problem for you. I didn't realize how much that added up.
Well, it was
to.
also
I know
like
the
this-
legal the system's expensive.
This case
but-
in 2019,
you're all set.
jury verdict.
Thank you for the super
in North
chat and
Carolina.
thank you for the
probably-
support. I
none of you knew
appreciate
this.
it.
It was like a jury verdict. Woman sues me for defamation for quoting. I quoted. you
Yes,
quoted
Gene,
Scott
I
Vogel.
do have a copy.
And
Hang
Scott
on.
Vogel is
Yes, Gene, I do have a copy of the contract. You know how I have a copy of the contract? Because it's literally in the fucking lawsuit that I gave you earlier. When you were on the stream, it was pinned to the top of the chat the entire time. And oh, wait, look at this. There you go. Copy of his employment contract in the lawsuit, in the chat right now. I did read it earlier, live on the stream that you were in and clearly not listening. God damn.
I had two. One of them was blind. And that was intentional because the jury sympathized with him as much as they did her.
Justice is blind.
Justice is blind. And the judge goes, if you is directed at, this is a transcript directed at the lawyer. If you sued Mike Wallace, I realize Mike
Because
Wallace
Project
is dead, 60
Veritas
minutes.
released a
But
statement
if
saying
you
he
sued
wasn't
Mike Wallace
fired
for
on
what
more
you're
than one
suing James
occasion.
O'Keefe
James
for,
O'Keefe was
everyone
not
would
fired.
laugh at you.
It is a lie to say
And you
he
should
was
have seen the
fired.
look on these
He
lawyers'
was not
faces.
fired on February 10th.
They were like, whoa.
It
we
is
didn't expect
laughable
that.
to anyone who
So
knows how
sometimes
the
you have to
real
fight
world
it
works.
all
that he
the
was,
way
that
to
you
the
say
end.
he was. He
It took-
lied.
Last year, we
It
won
was a
back
lie.
15 grand because in the United States,
They were still having board meetings about James O'Keefe and his position within Project Veritas and what was going on after February 10th.
Or an intent to file, and you go to your lawyer and say, okay, how should we respond to this? They'll say, we'll draft a response, 15 grand, bang.
That's why everyone loves lawyers so much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I don't blame the lawyers. You've got a firm of people. They got
Thank you,
three
Beth. I
people on it.
appreciate that.
The really good lawyers charge a lot of money because they're really good and you want to win. But
I mean, look, I get it, but I'm just saying it's absurd. It's ridiculous how expensive it all is.
but there's a point buried there that I want your audience to understand. I had to fight it all the way. I think that I'm saying the total cost
James
of
did
that
say
one
he was
deal.
fired. James did say he was fired. He
1.5
said
mil.
he said so earlier in
1.5
the
million
show.
to do the right thing.
James O'Keefe
$1.5
on
million.
video
And what I
earlier
get?
in
I
this
got a check
episode
for
said that
15
he was
grand
fired
4
on
years later.
February 10th. That is
I'm
a
not
provable
complaining.
lie. He was
I'm
not
not a victim.
fired on
I
February
don't want your
10th.
pity.
He
I don't want
is
your sympathy. I am
lying.
trying to make a point. Do you know how many late night dinners, how many car rides, how many airplane trips away from my loved ones that I had to take to raise that money to pay those lawyers? And by the way, more power to the lawyers. It's the free market. They deserve to get paid $1,000 an hour.
Doing
and
my
they won.
best, Amazon Eve. It makes
But
me
the
sad.
price
It really
that has
does.
to
This
be
is so
paid
fucking unnecessary.
is so central to the journalism itself. You can't tell the story without also paying that price, and nobody gets that.
But James, wouldn't you have rather spent $1.5 million on like some beachfront property and a
I could
Lambo
have
or something?
I could have spent that money on 100 other things, but I cared so
Thank
much.
you, Beth. I appreciate it.
In that federal Article 3 judge, Reitzinger was his name, reading the riot act to those lawyers. And by the way, cameras are not allowed in federal courtrooms. I wish they were, but there's a transcript. You can read it.
I literally have a
I
headache.
think
from how ridiculous
there's
this
relatively
is.
few people left who admire the abstract when it comes to value. I think you're
Mm.
one of them. And what I mean is, as I mentioned before, vanity played a role in why news organizations would do serious investigations,
wanted
why they would
people to think he
expose
was
government
fired.
malfeasance,
That
why they
was a
would publish
smear
the Pentagon
campaign.
Papers
He
or the
wanted
Afghan
people
war
to think
logs and things
that.
like that.
He was
And it was
launching a
that
smear campaign.
it feels good to be recognized for doing something good. And we've lost and we're losing a lot of that in our society. So my assumption, James, is that when it comes on like this, I feel similarly. I say this: would I rather have, like, I don't know, a Ferrari and an infinity pool, or would I rather have really great
Justice.
journalists?
Do you know that when
Justice.
that gavel came down, it's called a Rule 50 directed verdict. Directed verdict means
We'll see, Bat.
a judgment notwithstanding the verdict or right before the verdict, and the judge dismissed the case.
Wow.
Everyone that worked with me in that courtroom was crying. I was crying. Russ Verney at the time,
Oh
what
my
was our head of our
God.
legal department, was crying. My blind lawyer was hugging me. I cannot describe the feeling it felt like.
This honestly makes me so sad. It really does. The whole thing is really fucking upsetting. If like, because it's like,
Our system is a little broken.
I can see exactly what he's doing, and I think there are other people who can see exactly what he's doing, and it's like,
right away.
he is doing his. James O'Keefe is not in the right on this one. James O'Keefe is trying to destroy Project Veritas because Project Veritas refused to do what James O'Keefe wanted them to do and took control away from him. And so now he's trying to do like everything he can to destroy them. I mean, and people are just buying into it because they're so enamored of James O'Keefe. And it's like, and Tim is like, James, you are so brave, James. Why people should support you, James? Everything you do is perfect, James. Like, be a fucking journalist, Tim.
Somebody meets with somebody else and they say, hey, look, man, this O'Keefe thing's really bad for everybody. Why don't we grease your wheels a little bit and you make it go away?
It's
And
crazy.
what's it worth?
The way that 501c3s are organized is so, it's like no fault divorce. Like you need 3 people to start a thing, and then the 2 of them can immediately get you thrown out. I don't even think they just come together and they're like, we had a board meeting, you're out. You're like, dude, I just paid $6,000 to start this thing. And they're like, yeah, we decided you're out. You're like, where's the charity? Like, I understand you can get free money donated, but
That's why I don't trust nonprofits.
I'm in the process of starting one right now, and it's like, geez, I'm sweating.
Insane.
Don't start a nonprofit.
It's so
That's
insane.
You
It's
have
so
to find really strong people, and the question is, how do you evaluate whether someone is strong? I mean, you don't really know until you go through hell with them. So you have to go through that to establish whether they have testicular fortitude. You know, that Henry V quote that we were reciting.
Hold their manhoods cheap.
You're the impressionist, right?
I don't know if I could do him. Yeah.
For he today who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. This story
Wow.
shall the good man teach his son.
I feel like all my faith in
For he
humanity
today
is just
who
like
goes through
draining
hell
out
with
of
me
me
shall
right
be my
now.
brother.
That's what it
Be
feels
him
like.
ne'er so vile, however low born a man may be. This day shall make him a man. And gentlemen in England now abed shall stand a curse they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, while any speaks that fought with us on this day. The people that remain by my side, like RC.
I
I'm
don't
getting
know if
emotional
he
here,
is doing it on
they're like-
purpose or if
they're
he's
like my
like a
brothers.
useful idiot for
They have been through
this
hell.
guy. I really don't understand.
they have been through absolute hell, and I have seen such goodness in people.
But I feel like I've also tried to have faith in Tim so many times, and he has just
while
let me
also
down
seeing
over
evil.
and over and over
But
and
the
over
things
and
that
over
keep me
again.
going
And it's
is
just
the
like,
goodness.
I don't think Tim cares about any of this. I think Tim cares
there's a
about
lot of good
himself and
people out
making
there.
money, and that's it. And it's really upsetting.
What's some of the best stuff you've
It's
seen?
really sad.
The people out there in the country who message me and say, I will always have your back and I want to do what you do.
Oh my God.
And I need your help to do it. Those are people who keep me going.
Are you inspiring people to start their own companies?
I want to inspire people to go do what I do, because I think they can take down one man, but they can't take down thousands of people. I think they can defeat one man, but they can't defeat an army. They can't defeat an army of people.
Or multi-million-dollar lawsuits, massive multinational corporations.
I'm ultimately not worried about the money because I think it can be raised. It's not a zero-sum game. If I have to raise 50 million, I'll raise it. Whatever it takes, we'll do it to get the job done. because there's so many people in this country. Like I go to airports and TSA and backseat of Uber. I mean, the people that like even I mean, I'm sure you get recognized all the time, Tim, but like it's crazy. I mean, I had dinner the other night in a restaurant. Someone came 10 times in a row. They came up to me and they all say, please never give up. Please stop doing. Don't ever stop doing what you're doing. Please don't ever give up. They're begging me not to give up. So that keeps me going. And
I went to a small farm store about 6-7 months ago, and was in there just shopping little local produce stuff. They asked me what I did, and I was like, oh, I do a political show and stuff. And they're like, oh, really cool, really cool. What's it called? And I said, it's all called TimCast. And they're like, oh, that's really, really great. And what do you talk about? And I was like, oh, this, that, or otherwise. And they're like, who I love? And I was like, who? And they're like, James O'Keefe. He's so great. Do you know James O'Keefe? I'm like, I've heard of him. Yeah, he's really great. And they were like, we need more people like him. And I'm just sitting here like, this is really cool. I know that guy.
The balance is like, because people are going to name their kids after you, probably you too, Tim. But like your ego.
Come on, man.
How do you balance your ego? Like I imagine the last couple of years was fucking insane for you. Like just so much pressure and focus on you and your name.
Yeah, that's a great
like,
question. How are you
that's
going to
a good
balance
question.
the ego? That's a great fucking question. Yeah.
In many ways,
yeah,
you have to be
yeah.
wired a certain way. I think if
James,
you're an artist,
I am so humble.
You're not a political person. I think the game, the process they put you through prevents your ego from being a thing in the first place, because of the power is nothing more than responsibility. So when you have to raise $100,000 a day, like that'll mess up your ego, because got to wake up at 6 a.m. I got to work till 1 a.m. I got to run the company, be the face, be the talent, and deal with all these lawsuits. When you're a witness in federal court,
O'Keefe did everything.
that'll get your ego destroyed
O'Keefe
real fast.
Did everything in Project Veritas. Every single job. He had
People
no
don't
help.
realize
there were no other
that
people
power
at Project
is nothing
Veritas.
more than
just
just
James O'Keefe.
responsibility.
No one else.
And when you
was
have
involved.
all this response, I mean, the FBI came in my
You
apartment,
guys
point guns at me,
see?
take my stuff.
James was the
Sort of
only
Damocles
person that
hangs
made
over
all
your
this
head.
happen.
And at any moment in time, and then you think, oh, they're going to get me on obstruction of justice and perjury. That process will humble you real fast. Your office is destroyed by a hurricane. Mine was. I had to rebuild it.
No, I'm not smashing
so
the like button. No.
your ego, you'll get destroyed. Your ego will get destroyed. And I think I'm a fortunate man, because this process I've been through over the last 6 months, it humbled me, but it didn't destroy me. And I think that's rare for a man to go through that.
Yeah, there's a really great quote. What you're saying reminds me of the Venerable Archbishop Fulton Machine once said that maturity is pain plus responsibility. And I think that rings true here. A lot of people have pain inflicted upon them, but then they don't carry it in a responsible way. And so they never develop as they need to.
They want all of the power with none of the accompanying responsibility. And it's nothing but responsibility when you're in charge of an outfit like that. And it is a spiritual war now. And a humility is an ingredient for
a
work ethic, I think.
God.
You said a moment ago that
Oh my fucking God.
something to the effect of money is responsibility or power is responsibility. Yeah. I think there's an interesting moral dichotomy. The left views doesn't agree with the idea of power being responsibility. They believe power is something is for them to wield for their own luxuries and desires. And then there are people on this side who view it as a responsibility to those who have given you a portion of their power so that you can concentrate that. I think about that with what we do here and what our goals are. I see that in what you do and with what your goals are. That every day, and I'll get as nerdy as possible for all the anime fans, it is Goku doing the Spirit Bomb. For those that aren't familiar, it's in Dragon Ball Z when Goku asks all of the life of the world to lend him power so that he can defeat the bad guy. Mm-hmm. That's how I view power. Those are the things I grew up seeing. And I know it's dorky, nerdy, whatever, for people who aren't fans of anime, but the idea is, as a child, I'm growing up looking up to the heroes who say, please, but a small piece of your power so that I can do something great. The responsibility to wield that power responsibly, the requirement that you do it is a moral obligation, in my opinion. So for everybody who gives TimCast.com and becomes members, sure, I could say, we're a for-profit company. I deserve this money. I built it. I'm going to do whatever I want with it. I don't. We launched the TimCast newsroom, which is a financial detriment in a sense. We lose money having
It
journalists do
breaks
this
my
work.
heart that James is
But we
wrong. It
have to
breaks
do
my
it
heart
because
that
there's
this is
two
a
ways I
reality.
see it.
It
One,
really
we
does.
do an
But
opinion
I can
news
look at a
commentary show.
calendar.
It is not the hard, groundbreaking journalism that Project Veritas was doing under you or what you're doing now with OMG.
But I think you're probably one of the best in the business
I'm gonna
when it
find the
comes to that
Project
beat.
Veritas
I
letter.
appreciate it, but I also recognize
What
we
I'm
have
here,
to,
you know.
as people are basically saying, like, we love this show and what you talk about, we're going to give you a small piece of the power that we've accrued so that you can wield it. I don't immediately say something like, oh man, it'd be really cool if I built like a massive skyscraper with an infinity pool. I think let's hire a whole bunch of journalists and take that energy and focus it into something massively net positive for the world. That's why even when it comes to like the coffee company we started, I'm in the hole $250,000 on starting the coffee company because we need to build products that compete in the cultural space. I'm in the hole another couple $100,000 on starting the coffee shop because we need to compete with woke corporations. I think about it all the time. I'm like, man, if I shut all this down and just did one small YouTube channel where I made 3 videos per day, I would live like a king and never have to sweat ever again. But someone
Tim
has
is
to
also
be
stunning and brave and
calling
beautiful.
out what they see as injustice. Someone has to be like you, James, actually doing the work and inspiring others to go and build strong moral frameworks for our country and inspire people to be good people and to do the right thing. And that is, we have an obligation.
As a reminder, when I DM'd Tim Pool and said, Tim, I can point you to the real activists that are actually doing the work on the ground, Tim thanked me by blocking me on Twitter. And so that's how much Tim Pool cares about doing the actual work and talking with the real activists, because Tim Pool thinks the quartering is going to save us all. Tim Pool doesn't care about any of the investigations that we did. Tim Pool doesn't care about any of the facts that we've sent them. I find it really sad. I find it really disheartening and dismissive. But anytime I hear Tim talking about, this is what we have to do, we have to fight back, I go, bullshit, Tim, because you shit on the people who are actually doing it in the real world and in favor of kissing James O'Keefe's ass when James O'Keefe is obviously and clearly wrong because you can't look at a basic lawsuit and understand it. It breaks my heart. It really does.
Stop doing this. Whatever is happening right now, make it stop.
God
Because this is an
damn
indication of pain that there's damage
are
being done.
so
Then there's other
fucked.
kind of pain that indicates growth, like the breakdown of muscle so that it can regrow.
That's very true.
Yeah. And if you can withstand that kind of pain and understand the difference between that and actual warning signs.
And another thing that Roseanne Barr told me recently was that, and I hope I'm not breaking her confidence, but I intend to visit with her in Texas soon, is she's a creative. I'm a creative. I don't know about, I assume you're creatively motivated. We're creative.
We make music and art.
Right. You give your music business and everything. I mean, I'm a creative. So that's what motivates me. I'm motivated by creating the project, telling the story, doing the thing. Creative people, this whole process has created a little disillusionment in me, which at first I thought, well, that's not good because am I going to lose my idealism? But Roseanne Barr told me that what makes a great artist, if you're an artist, illusion separates you from God and separates you from reality. If you're if you're getting rid of your illusions, you're going to do a better job of capturing reality.
Is literally saying he's doing God's work.
We are witness to reality. If you're a reporter, you're reporting on the truth, you're reporting on the world around you. If you're an artist, you're doing the good, the true, and the beautiful. So to be disillusioned, I think is a good thing. It's a sign of wisdom. And to your point about muscle, that's a great metaphor. Like, I totally agree with that. You go through, I mean, the pain is like beyond the sword of Damocles, the FBI, that's still ongoing. I'm still under federal criminal investigation like 3 years later. They have all my stuff. It's a sword of Damocles. It's painful, but you become stronger for it. And it's going to prepare you for the next thing, which is worse. But hey, your muscles are bigger. By the way, you guys know where the gym is?
Dude, Jason O'Keefe, by the way, ripping up 20 pounds of muscle.
Do I look like I know where the gym is, James? Come on.
Are you religious, man?
I am. I am a religious man. Yes, I'm a believer.
Were you always?
No, I didn't, Gene. Hang on.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I think
Gene, what I need you to do, Gene, is scroll to the end of the lawsuit where it has James O'Keefe's full employment agreement. It is in the addendums. This is a lie. It is not excerpts. It is the full employment agreement. I can lead you guys to water, but I can't make you look at what you don't want to see. Facts don't care about your feelings. Scroll to the end of the fucking lawsuit. Unbelievable. Unfucking believable.
Hit me. I was like, this. I said, shit's about to get real. That was the moment for me. For whatever reason, that was just. I woke up. I was like, oh my. They took away my main distribution mechanism.
Wow.
And then Elon let us back on December 2022, a month before the Pfizer story, which was God's timing.
That was your biggest story, right?
Providential.
Praise Jesus. That was the
Amen.
biggest. That was 50 million views.
Wow.
Which is like more views than like the World Cup scoring video. Like that was by a factor of 20.
White pill.
Crazy white pill.
White,
that's the white
that
pill.
moment is the white pill. The
What
moment
does that
of
mean?
optimism. You begin to feel that you're on the path of success and that goodness is.
And I
forthcoming.
confronted that Pfizer guy in the restaurant in New York. I don't know if you guys remember this.
And
It
they
was
locked
like-
you in.
Oh yeah. Oh, I
They
saw that.
locked me in the restaurant.
you're not
If
wrong,
you haven't
Tom
seen
J.
this, it's like a sitcom.
You're not
It's
wrong.
wild.
And the guy's like a high up at Pfizer, and they lock me in, which is like, I guess, false imprisonment in Brooklyn. This is in Dumbo, Brooklyn. And I'm being locked in the restaurant, and the guy is smashing. He takes the iPad out of my hand. I know you do a good Chris Hansen impression.
What did you think of Zine over there?
That's unbelievable.
Thank you. Thank you.
God.
What were you thinking messaging a minor?
So I walk up to the Pfizer executive like Chris Hansen. I'm like, is this seat taken?
I remember it was a brilliant video.
What's my line? I forgot my line. It's not,
You're like, can I sit here?
can I sit? Is this seat taken? And the guy's like, he goes through the 5 stages of grief in 2 minutes.
It's really
He's like,
remarkable.
oh my God, which is the name of my company. That's a double pun. And he goes, oh my God. And he goes, you can't be here. You can't do this. And then he goes, I'm literally a liar.
I remember that.
I'm literally a liar. It's like, but you expect me to believe everything you're telling me right now. And then he proceeds to smash the device as if the only location of the video is on that particular device that I had. He smashed. This is the guy who went to Yale Medical School, smashing. And meanwhile, he like assaults my crew, and I'm backing up. And I'm thinking, here, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, I need to make sure that this whole deal is recorded because the cops are coming. Oh man. And then a week later I was removed from Project Veritas.
It's hard not to think that it was connected. Either that or it was just getting so big.
Because that's what James
that it hit
O'Keefe
some sort
wants
of
you to
breaking
think.
point.
Right.
That's
I
what he
had
wants you to think.
I hear a lot of stories where people say something like, "Oh, my friend recommended this mind-altering drug," and I don't mean illegal ones. I mean legal ones. They're like, "Have you thought about anti-anxiety medicine or depression medicine?" People are on how many pills these days?
Yeah.
I think even Family Guy made a joke about it where Lois like cracks a bunch of different pills and she's like, all of my different prescriptions, and then eats them. And she's like, tomorrow I'll think this is a new idea or something like that. Like something is going on in this country with big pharmaceutical companies in terms of just mass cranking out so many different drugs, and they make such tremendous profits, and they sponsor so many different media organizations that all of a sudden big companies are like, hey, nobody badmouth our sponsor.
I don't know if you saw the story that OMG 2 weeks ago with the Fox News nightly producer saying that the advertising dollars influence and we get money from Pfizer. And I did a podcast with Robert Kennedy. I intend to interview Trump, Kennedy, and DeSantis, but I did an hour-long deal with Kennedy, and he told me a story of when he was talking to someone at Fox. I think it was Ailes at the time, who relayed to him that if you go on the air and talk about this stuff, Rupert Murdoch will kick you off the air. So this is real. This is, you know,
Tim
this is
asked
a real
him,
influence.
were you fired? What day
and I
were
think
you
the
fired?
story
He
is
said
just to your
February
point. I
10th.
think it's more of it's going to come out.
He
I
may
don't think
used a weasel word.
we're not
like-
done with the Pfizer beat.
Oh, no.
Don't you worry.
I think what we see
Thank
with
you,
you,
Liz.
James,
I'm
with
not very
OMG, with
zen
what you were
tonight,
previously
I'll
doing
tell
with
you
Veritas,
that.
just
I'm
your
not
work in
very
general
zen
and
right
people
now
who've
at
inspired.
all.
We need people, young people growing up, knowing that you will be championed. You will be not only championed by your peers, you will actually do good things that help make the world better if you stand up for on strong moral grounds.
Yes.
Reject corruption. And so when I hear that story of the guy in the store, and you know he works for Pfizer and all that, He said, I'm a liar, and then he tries to smash the device. And I'm thinking about, here's a guy who will privately, to a random person, admit to malfeasance.
Yeah.
But then once he finds out people might realize he's doing wrong, he tries to destroy the evidence and lie about it because he knows he is doing evil and he is scared that people will find out. That's kind of a scary thing.
He literally says it's bad for America in the video.
Yeah. Right.
It was insane. It was like a cartoon. I literally made a cartoon of it, but it was hard to parody because of how over the top it was. I couldn't believe this guy was openly. And at one point, he's like, "You're not like one of those hidden camera guys, are you?" I was, oh my goodness.
Yeah, they can't. That's why people don't do this, because it would expose themselves. It would expose the whole rotten thing. But you're going to say something?
No, we need to get to the point where we restore this sense of, I can't do that. That's wrong.
Yeah.
Instead of, I'll do that as long as no one finds out.
Well, because
that's ridiculous.
Exactly. We don't care if we do the right or wrong thing.
cannot
We care
even
about our
believe this.
reputation. That's it.
That's right. That's exactly it. And there's a weakness. What people are forgetting is, like, it's not necessarily
He
these are
was not
bad people,
indefinitely
they're
suspended
weak
without pay.
people.
That is not
I've seen a
true.
lot
That
of
is
weak
provably not
people.
true.
And
That
when you're
is
doing the
made
right
up.
thing, sometimes you can't be like a nice guy. You can't just go along with it. You have to take a stand.
That is
and
not true.
And that moral compass is everything. The weakness versus the strength is what I would say
He
is
was
the problem. We need strong
suspended
people.
pending
I know it's
an
a cliche, but
investigation.
and then you have to figure out how do you
Like
test for that?
fish addict.
I think
Truly,
about
the amount of shit
that
that you're
mentality
making up
of,
to simp for
you know,
James
this guy does
O'Keefe
something
is
he
really
knows is
impressive,
wrong
and it
and
really
bad and
makes me
harmful,
question your intelligence
as long as
level. I'm
nobody finds
sorry,
out.
it really just does.
And it's remarkable to me because I'm wondering, you know, does he have no scruples? Does he have no inner sense of, I just can't bring myself?
And even if he had been fired on February 10th, as we have previously covered 15 Ways from Sunday, the employment agreement that James O'Keefe signed was in effect for a year following the termination of the contract. So it doesn't matter. Functionally, it doesn't matter. It makes no difference. James O'Keefe is lying. There is a difference between suspended pending an investigation and fired. James O'Keefe was not fired. He lied on TimCast. And even if he was telling the truth, it would still make no difference at all based on the employment agreement that James O'Keefe signed.
Information.
Everything.
It's insane.
Everything. Because it has to do with, I guess, a narcissistic trait in humans where they just can't admit that. How did you put it? They can't admit they're wrong. How did
Really,
you say
James?
that earlier? 'Cause you were on point.
Really?
Evil
Narcissists can't
exists
admit
in
they're
people
wrong?
and
Really?
They're fine with doing it
Really?
so long as no one finds out.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
I think what happens there is sort of a microcosm of a much
Oh my
larger human problem, which is that when people don't develop virtue, what they've essentially failed to do is subjugate their emotions or their passions to reason. So even though they know, okay, it wouldn't be reasonable for me to tell someone I barely know every borderline illegal or flat out illegal or unethical thing I'm doing at work, I feel like I want to in the moment, so I'm going to.
Right. And one of the other questions if I'm an undercover reporter and someone's saying, "Here, you," they say, "Hey, yes, you want to check me? You want to check my body?" And they'll never do it. And the thing about it psychologically is that undercover work is about asking them about themselves. People have talked about themselves. So it's remarkable what people will confess if you express interest in them personally. Oh,
You're familiar with this meme? Remember this one?
yeah.
This is the hot,
It's
crazy
remarkable
access
what people will
for women you
confess if
date.
you express interest
And
in
it's
them
like, you know, if a
personally.
woman is a
James?
5 or below,
Really?
you don't,
Really?
you know, it's like a no-go zone. If she's, you know, the crazy access is a 10, it's a no-go zone. Then you have the crazy zone, the fun zone, the date zone. And then women who are not crazy and super attractive, it's James O'Keefe.
Spying on you.
That or it's a dude, isn't it? Or the lower right when it's they replaced that with James O'Keefe. I
Right.
see.
Yes. So like
Yeah.
this was after the Twitter thing when we were like, so I can't remember
We
who
were
said it.
cracking up. No, we were watching it laughing, and then you and I were coming up with all these jokes.
Someone tweeted it. They were like, if you are a like mildly unattractive tech engineer for a big tech company, and this hot woman is asking you about the inner workings of your company, it's James O'Keefe.
Well, I just love the idea. I mean, are these people watching pickup artist videos where the pickup artist is like, you want to get a girl? Tell her every illegal thing you've ever done on the first date. drives him crazy.
Do you see the story we did last week on Fetterman, where the guy, this is Fetterman's aide, he carries around his stuff, and
oh my
and
god,
he's you probably do a great impression, but he's like, I'm
not incoherent enough.
We just use the journalists as puppets. Like, they do everything we tell them to. They're not skeptical. Like, he's bragging.
Yeah.
About this, and the dude in the Pfizer, he's bragging.
This
He's
is worse
bragging
than
about
any socialism we've ever watched.
Mutating viruses and hurting people. Why would they're bragging about these things to try to what, to get laid?
I think I know what it is. Well, I think that's part of it. I think when someone is doing something horrible, they feel a need for that behavior to be accepted by other people. Right? It's their conscience is bothering them, and they want to sit across from somebody who will say, yeah, of course there's nothing wrong with that, or I agree, that's really funny and interesting, so that when those thoughts come into their mind that maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, they can try to fall back on, well, the other people I've spoken to approve of it.
They're dying to confess.
This is why
they're desperate to confess.
The people who are in your face about their lifestyle choices the most are always the people who feel guilty about what they're doing, and they need your approval because they don't have the approval of their conscience.
They need confession.
Going over to my wall over here and smashing my head against it like many
I don't think
times
anyone's
in
ever
this
spoken
stream.
about this in this way.
true.
By the way, some of them we don't find them on dating apps. In fact, the one guy,
blown away.
reporter that works for me, got a guy in December in
was
Chicago.
not on my bingo card for today, and I would
remember
get
the
this
dildo
black
butt
pill.
plug story?
Oh, enlightenment.
This is the private school.
I don't remember.
Remember the dildo butt? By the way,
I don't know if I want to remember.
Yeah, I don't.
The private school, the head of a private school in Chicago, talks about giving out these things
yeah.
to children.
Oh my gosh.
And he met
Jail.
that man in an airport security line. So
wow,
that's how he got that information.
Did he have to I'm gonna go to the bathroom and then put the camera on and oh geez.
He winning friends and influencing people, and the confession.
I want to cry right now. I really
it's
do.
Really
like this
Dude,
is
confession
this
is innately necessary for humans, man. The religion had it,
correct.
The church, and then I was
That's
doing
right.
it with internet video. You can tell the world your secrets. It's humiliating, but you can, and they stop popping into your head. Like you stop
Your
getting distracted.
conscience becomes clear when you tell someone this thing, and that's why I say we hold a mirror up to people.
I think Seamus nailed it. I think a lot of these people, it's a joke that we've pointed out where, a guy meets a woman, he sits down and says, hey, babe, you want to hear about all the illegal things my company does? Like it's going to score them. But that's not it. Seamus, I think, nails it in that the moment they engaged in something they knew was wrong, their mind said, you are doing
and
wrong.
people are
Stop.
buying it.
And they
They're
didn't.
lapping
They
it
weren't
up.
strong enough
Hook,
to say
line,
no.
and sinker.
So when they
This
sit down
is-
with someone in private, they're looking for validation.
Exactly.
This is like the worst part of this is watching Tim Pool and James O'Keefe feed each other's narcissism, and to have so many people be so snowed by this that they can't look at a calendar and they can't look at a very simple employment agreement, and they can't understand what happened, and that everything James O'Keefe is saying is lying and deflecting and just, oh, look at me. How great am I? How great am I? I'm going to save the world. I'm the only hope for humanity. All those evil people at Project Veritas that are paid off by Pfizer, when there is no evidence of that. There's no evidence at all. And people just buy it. James, where can we send you money, James? How can we send you money, James? How can we support you, James? Please let us send you money, James. Please let us do it. You are so great, James. You are so amazing. You will save us all. In the meantime, Project Veritas is still doing work, is still paying employees, is still paying reporters, is actually just not feeding one guy's fucking ego. And listen, James O'Keefe has done great work, but he didn't do that work by himself. He didn't do that work by himself. Literally in the lawsuit that I've given you 15 times. It's just like James O'Keefe literally on this stream said, I did everything. I was the guy getting up, and I was doing all the fundraising, and I was doing all the reporting, and I was doing everything, and no one else was doing it. It was just me, and I had the world on my shoulders. I did everything. No, you didn't, bro. No, you didn't.
I think maybe that's just there could be something more metaphysical, or maybe it's simply that we know the destruction of the planet. We know that harming others is just inherently wrong, and working to those ends is wrong.
Yeah.
but they want to justify it somehow and be told everything's okay. You're a good person.
Well, I think we have a culture that celebrates vice and denigrates virtue.
you,
And as I
Peter.
mentioned
Thank
earlier,
you, King
when
Peter
we're
of the
referring to
chat.
virtue, what we're really referring to
If
is
James had the
subjugating your
receipts, he
impulses,
would
your
have brought
passions, your
them. He
emotions to
doesn't have
reason,
them.
doing the right thing in spite of the way you feel. What we have encouraged people to do systematically over the last several decades is to orient themselves towards pleasure as the highest good. And that includes ignoring your conscience, ignoring reason, ignoring your values, just doing what feels good. And what results from that is a person who is incapable of going against their own passions and doing what's right. And so other people not liking you, it makes you feel bad. They don't want that negative.
And the right eats this stuff up because they want to be led. The right is desperate. You guys know this is true. The right is desperate for people to save them. They are just do it all for us. We don't have to do it. We don't want to do it. Just do it. Please save us, James. They are desperate for these types of people. And that is why these types of people are so successful on the political right. And that's why people come into the right all the time to just repeat their talking points and tell them what they want to hear. And it doesn't even matter if they believe it or not, because they will make so much money that it is unbelievable. Does Seamus and Ian know the role they're playing? I tend to doubt it, to be honest. I tend to really, really doubt it.
And what they don't realize is it's actually terrifying and dangerous.
They almost pull their eyes out as infants.
And
It's a real thing.
they can't sweat. Because
Unbelievable. I
the
cannot.
pain is
I cannot.
what I read was that certain people who can't experience pain, their body can't regulate temperature because they don't have that sensation of discomfort. And so they could easily overheat and die. They also sometimes could bite through their tongue when they're little kids. They can seriously injure themselves and not know. Crazy stories. Hardship is a good thing.
Yeah.
Nagging negative feelings.
Literally not what
always
it says,
bad things.
Dean,
I
but keep
understand
making
sometimes there's
stuff
chemical
up.
imbalance,
Not
depression,
what
and
it says
anxiety
at
where
all.
people are having a disorder.
Right.
But perhaps if you are
God
unhappy,
damn it.
not everybody, I know, sometimes people are,
They want him
clinically or
to
medically
abide by
depressed,
his
but
employment
perhaps
agreement.
you need to do better
That's
by
what it
yourself. You need
says.
to eat right. You need to exercise. You take responsibility
So are
for your
people
life.
born with the spark of the divine, and it is through the drugs and the what they're exposed to?
We suppress it.
We suppress it, but they're born with that desire. Because I feel like the word truth, speaking the truth, makes people feel free.
It does set you free.
The subjects that I write, the truth shall set you free. Veritas vos liberabit. Speaking the truth makes you feel free. And in many ways, this guy's good. I've never said it. I've never heard it said that way.
Thank you.
I mean, the subjects are engaging in confession.
Then you'll see
which
that
makes
it
them
says
feel
that
it's
they want him
therapy
to
for them.
abide by the employment
But the
agreement.
difference
Not
is
that
they
he
don't
has
get
to stop
absolution.
reporting forever.
Yep, that is the difference.
Abide by
Because
the
the thing about
employment
confession,
agreement.
well, no, because the difference is when you go to confession, when you go confess to a Catholic priest with true contrition, you're actually sorry, you're actually making a resolution not to do it again. You're not going in there and saying, this is the thing I did, please give me your approval. You're saying, this is wrong. I know it was wrong. Please absolve me. I'm sorry. Right? But that's not what they're doing. They want to confess it, but in a way where they don't admit it's wrong and they get your approval.
They want the inverse.
Your approval is their God.
James, you're effectively an inverse priest for them in a certain way, where instead of saying admit you were wrong, they're saying please tell me I wasn't.
Exactly.
There's something to that because
and then it exposes. But real
Tim
quick,
Pool
sorry, I just wanted to
called
add
James O'Keefe a priest.
what these people need to understand, and what always breaks
Are
my
you
heart about the
kidding me?
videos that you put out, James, when it's like a Twitter engineer who says, "Yeah, we're doing these things." Why wasn't he a whistleblower? Why didn't he say, I am going to reach out to James O'Keefe personally
That
and of
has
my own
nothing
volition
to do
and
with
tell
what
him
the
about these
lawsuit is
horrible things
about.
they're doing?
I have
Nothing
a good
to
answer
do with
for
it
that.
at all.
It's one
Nothing
word,
to do
two
with
syllables.
it. Not relevant
Paycheck.
to the lawsuit.
the god of
at
money.
all.
That's what I've been thinking
Which
about.
is I wasn't, that's not really what motivates me, but a lot of otherwise I
They
thought
just called him
decent
a fucking
people
priest.
will just stay there for the paycheck, I think. And we've talked about, Tim, you and I talked about this before. Well, that they're cowards, and yeah, there's something to that. But I think that's changing in society. To be a little optimistic here, I think people now care more about doing the right thing more than they ever have. But they need a leader. They need someone to follow. People like I have to give people permission Like people are watching from the sidelines with a pinky toe in the pool. Well, I think they're drafting an email right now to o'keefetips@protonmail.com.
And none of that, Sheen,
Should
has
I do
anything to
this?
do
I
with
got the
what
mortgage.
you're
I got the
because you keep
wife. I
simping for
got the
James
this.
O'Keefe. I don't
It's
know
always
why
the
you want to
wife
suck
or
his
something
cock
like
so
this.
badly. I think that's
I
a
got the
problem you're going to have
kids,
to
and
evaluate on
I always
your
say,
own.
look, you get the kids. Okay, well, but your kids, don't they want to look up to their parents? And don't they? I mean, I had someone tell me, oh, you're really lucky you don't have children. And one day I'll be a father, hopefully soon. But like, really,
Well, he
I'm lucky
defamed
I
them
don't
up
have
and down
children.
the internet, Peter.
I would think that my children would hopefully
He
look up to
engaged in
someone
a
who stands on
months-long
principle,
smear
even if it costs me
campaign
my
up
paycheck.
and down the internet.
You know, and these are there's nothing new under the sun.
As someone who has been the target of a years-long smear campaign at this point, I can tell you exactly how that feels. Sadly, the person who spread the smear campaign against me doesn't have any money, so it makes no sense for me to sue him. If you guys are supporting James O'Keefe in this, you are supporting the spreading of blatant smear campaigns, and that will never sit well with me, just so we're clear.
For $20 on a bus to Occupy Wall Street, I just started filming stuff. So like when you told that story of the woman who, you said, have you gone to your public school meetings? I didn't know I could.
They
There's a lot
are
of people who
literally
don't
in
realize
the fucking document,
there is
bro.
nothing stopping you from entering the fray of the political.
Here you go, fish
right?
addict.
Fear of unknown.
Sure, but I mean,
Read
like,
the document.
I thought about this when I was younger.
I read it to you.
How
that
do
wasn't enough.
you
You can now
get
read
involved
it
and
on
say,
your
like,
own.
the conversation we are having? Someone might be wondering, like, how do I get on a show like that? Well, you just start doing these things. You show up to events, you speak, you be present in the moment, you film, you record. There are a lot of people who got started by just showing up and being like, hey, I'm here. Here's what I think. And then more and more people start noticing they're there and they think things and they're speaking out. More and more people started going to school board meetings and speaking up and getting attention. You just have to do it and be the person leading the charge.
Also, ditch hedonism. This
Amen.
obsession with feeling good and avoiding pain is it's a detriment. You got to embrace pain, and it sounds sadistic to say that, because like not all kinds. Don't seek it out.
It's not sadistic.
It's
No,
going to
you're
be
right.
there. It's there right now. Gravity is painful. We're being sucked down and twisted to this earth. It hurts.
Well,
Like, deal with
the first chapter of the book I wrote, American Muckraker, is called Suffering. That the first chapter is about pain, and I read, because of Jordan Peterson, Gulag Archipelago.
Oh,
and
it's great.
The Solzhenitsyn guy talks about in the gulags, and there's this one part of this story that
now
just
going to compare
really
himself to
resonated with me. He's in the
Solzhenitsyn.
gulags. We always joke that I'm going to go to the gulags, right? It's like,
Joke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's happening.
Yeah.
But is that the worst outcome? Like RFK told me, which is very profound. I said, aren't you worried that these pharmaceutical companies are going to kill you? And he goes, there are things in life worse than dying. So Solzhenitsyn says he's in the gulags, and there's a hunger strike, and he writes about this. And
Ding, ding,
because
ding, ding,
when you're on a
ding.
hunger strike, you
Ding.
retain some of your own
Correct.
power over the guards.
James O'Keefe
And that
was
gives you a
pissed
sense
off.
of empowerment, because now you have the power.
He gave an
over
ultimatum to
the
Project
forces of
Veritas.
evil that are-
Project
that are-
Veritas
that are
said,
imprisoning
nah,
you.
bro.
And one of the guys in the hunger strike decided, you know what? I'm too hungry. I'm going to go eat that
So
piece
he
of
started
bread.
spreading a smear campaign about
And I'm
them.
paraphrasing, but Solzhenitsyn describes that the pain of these people are all
Unbelievable.
starving. He's starving to death. The
Unbelievable.
pain of the betrayal of the comrade who ate the bread was so much greater than the pain of the starvation. So
I want to go back and watch some
to
of
your
these
point about
interviews he
suffering,
did
it's
now.
like what I've been
I
through.
know they're in the lawsuit. Hang on. I'm
I
gonna
don't
find
view it as a
them.
bad thing, because I think that pain completes the process of muscle development. And I have zero regrets. It is going to make me a more effective messenger. It's going to make me understand who's real and who's good and who's phony and who's fake. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We want to know who's going to eat that bread. And I always say to my colleagues, don't eat the bread in the gulags. All right. Don't eat that bread.
Well,
Where is the
when
Daily
we find
Beast
ourselves in that
article
gulag,
that they
James,
wrote
I
about
will
James
share my
O'Keefe?
bread with you.
Share your bread with me. Okay.
For the
Yeah,
record,
we'll make sure you're doing
the
good.
gulag was the department that oversaw the prisons. The prisons weren't actually called gulags. Found that
Fair
out
enough.
recently.
Fair point. We're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and become a member at timcast.com, because the members only show will be coming up at about 10 or so p.m. A few minutes afterwards, goes live on the front page of timcast.com. And for those that are members at the $25 or more level, or you've been a member at any level for at least 6 months, you can submit questions, call into the show, and actually talk to us and our guests. All right, what do we got here? Grofty says, James is a badass, but human, I believe. He is indeed. He is indeed. All right. Brandon Smith says, took a bag of Appalachian Nights to work today. Figured a Navy base in San Diego is the perfect place for it. By the way, it's delicious. I really do appreciate it. And I got to say, we put this blend together. It's a bit darker than your typical dark roast, not as dark as an espresso roast, because I like all coffee, to be completely honest. The Rise with Roberto Jr. is a light roast, and it's super. I love it. But man, that Appalachian Nights, it gets me. I end up chugging my breakfast coffee. Normally, I'd sipping it. I'd be sipping it. Now I'm just slamming it. All right, let's grab some more. Let's grab some more super chats. Laurel says, run a coffee option for James with a % of the profits going to OMG. You can call it James O Kafif. Sure. Yeah. We'll make a specific blend, and then we'll have all the proceeds go to OMG. My thing is, so long as we can, here's what I always tell everybody. Like, look,
God.
if this company,
They're gonna make a
this
special
coffee company sets up a
and
bunch
give
of different
all
coffee
the
shops,
proceeds
I
to
think we'll end up
James O'Keefe.
franchising, because we just want to get the ball rolling. I don't care to be the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar coffee company. That's meaningless to me. What I do care about is pulling into a strip mall with my friends, and we're in the middle of like Omaha, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, did you set up a cast brew here? No, I thought you did. And we're like, oh, we go inside, and then there's the new OMG report playing on the TV with James O'Keefe. And so you get some suburban mom, and she goes and she's like, I just want a cold brew with some half and half. And then while she's waiting, there's James O'Keefe in the TV being like, breaking news. We got a new report about Act Blue, blah, blah. And she goes, oh, I didn't know that. Creating spaces where regular people will be exposed to the positive influence of all of the people that in this field, the work you're doing. That's our mission with the coffee shop and the coffee company. So absolutely, we can launch we'll make an OMG coffee. We'll sell it on the website, and we'll give you all the profits.
Wow. Breaking news.
He only offered me half of the profits for the one he and I are going to do together. This is a very special offer.
Very special for James O'Keefe. Well, the thing about, and this is true actually, the split rev with Seamus is that we're literally just selling a coffee for profit.
Also, no one wants to buy mine.
What's it called?
But the thing
I'm kidding. We're working on it. We had a couple ideas, but we're still probably tweaking it before we announce.
I think it could go either way. I think, generally speaking, narcissists will say they have no regrets because everything they do is perfect and great, and they can't grapple with mistakes they've made. I think that normal people will say that if they say they have no regrets, it's because they learned from the experience. Like, I generally don't have regrets in life, not because I don't think that I've done things that were fucked up or wrong, but because like I tried to learn from them, and I've tried to grow from them, and I've tried to get better from them. So there are things that I would go back and do differently today. But I think what James O'Keefe would say is that there's nothing that he would go back and do differently. And that's not realistic. Not realistic.
Workouts than coffee. Coffee kind of makes me crash, but I'll make an exception.
Oh, solid.
All right. Steven says, James, from the lawsuit, it looks like Project Veritas is suing to make you not be a person. Is that their goal? I quit supporting them since you left.
That's not what the lawsuit says at all.
I would say that how do I address this? Let me choose my words carefully here. That if they give me one moment to collect my thoughts.
Autumn, shut the fuck up.
If they can't exist without me, then some have said that they have to stop me from doing what I'm doing. It was said by someone somewhere. It was someone that said that there's a statement to the effect of, "We have to destroy James O'Keefe in order to save ourselves." Now you explain that one to me.
It just doesn't make sense.
The inverse. If they came out and said, "We're sorry things went this way. We appreciate all of the work James has done. We wish him the best. We hope that he succeeds, and we would like to succeed as well. They'd be way better off.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I support everyone doing this. I wish more. There should be more organizations doing this.
You went
I don't think
on
you
a
should stop
smear
a journalist from
campaign,
exposing
James.
corruption with money that was donated in order to expose corruption. That doesn't make any sense to me.
It almost feels like the intention was to destroy Veritas.
And some would say that they're
His intention was to destroy Veritas.
trying to be me, but nobody can be me. But I do wish people the best. I want people to expose what needs to be exposed, and I think we can coexist. I think we should. And we need more organizations doing this. I think we need more nonprofits, NGOs, whatever you want to call it. Nonprofits are tough though with boards, because again, you have that same problem we talked about throughout the program, which the board has to be very strong.
Well, and also, I mean, just that statement, we need to destroy him to save ourselves. To go out of your way to destroy someone for your own benefit, that's demonic. Like that's a complete inversion.
That's exactly
We have an
what
important one
James
from Cracklin. It says to
O'Keefe
James,
is
what happened to
doing.
Retracto the alpaca?
That is
Will OMG have a new
exactly
mascot?
what James O'Keefe is doing.
Yes, the Retracto was the mascot that Andrew Breitbart came up with. We were thinking back in 2010 when I was arrested, there needs to be an anthropomorphic creature to represent all the defamation. And he's like, "What about an alpaca?" And we just laughed till we cried.
We have Correcto.
Oh, you do have it. That I gave that to you.
Yeah.
The llama.
No, that one we bought. That one we bought, it was a knockoff, so we call it Correcto.
Correcto.
Because Correcto is not for when
I
other people
cannot
correct about
believe
you.
how
It's from when
badly
we issue
Simple is
corrections for our
sucking James
mistakes. It's the
O'Keefe's dick.
inversion of it. And we did it as kind of a
Do you have
No,
a
I
theme
can.
song?
I take that back.
No,
I can.
but
I
Yo,
can.
that
I can.
Retracto.
The correction
Oh
alpaca.
my God.
Retracto.
Did you guys
is
catch that
coming
James
at
was
you.
like,
I mean,
It's
no
really
one
good.
can be
what
me.
mascot should we do? I guess is my
No
question.
one
What do you
can
want
be
the
me,
OMG mascot to be?
Well,
There's
Llama.
one
Is
me. I am
Retracto
God's
in the
gift to
divorce?
everyone.
Is Retracto going to spend visitation with?
That's not up to me.
Unbelievable.
I'm not.
Maybe on the weekends.
Is that the same
A
as the one you have, though?
salamander.
Is it like the same kind of?
It's the same
dog?
exact
a
sort
gecko.
of thing. In fact, I have some of those.
Oh, the scarf that it's wearing is actual alpaca hair scarf.
I did not know
Dude,
that.
you should do like a camouflage
Yeah, we got it from an
animal.
alpaca farm.
Like
Camouflage?
a gecko or something that can camouflage into the wall. They can
Oh, a
also
chameleon?
Chameleon.
Yeah.
I'll take that under advisement. I have to think about a mascot. There's a lot of lies, defamation, slander, and I did this series every other week about that. And that'll
have you
continue.
considered a chicken, perhaps?
Why a chicken?
They're known for
awesome.
their intelligence and bravery.
Roosters.
Simpsons quote.
Roosters will sacrifice themselves to save their hens.
Really?
Yeah. And so, I take, and everybody watches the show knows this because I said it 8,000 times, but a rooster will run full speed to its own death to fight a predator if it buys time for the hens to escape.
I think we may have a decision here. On
The noble rooster.
Big cock.
And everybody
Big
makes fun
cock.
of chickens, and I think
because
that's
you need a big pair.
Lovable
to do this.
cock.
Here's what I don't like. All animals are scared, right? We call people a rabbit. You silly rabbit when people are scared.
Case in point.
But male rabbits and female rabbits will both equally flee. But a small rooster, if you walk into that coop, the rooster will attack you. Like, they're brave.
Yeah.
They got cojones.
It takes testicular fortitude to do this. Maybe.
Okay. Guys, do you mind if we switch gears and go back and watch some of the interviews that James O'Keefe did after he left Project Veritas, but he didn't resign, he just left? Because I want to see what he said. I can't watch this anymore. This is awful. This is like the worst blackpilling experience of my life. I want to go back and I want to watch some of these interviews. I cannot watch Tim anymore. This is just so fucking pathetic. All right, hang on. I've got oh shit, that one's not available anymore. Dang. That's not available. Hang on. So I just want to flip through some of this. This is when James O'Keefe was on the Charlie Kirk show.
We're going to lead today on the Ides of March. Beware the Ides of March, as Shakespeare wrote, with someone who was, quite honestly, treated very terribly, not dissimilar to that of Julius Caesar. But he is rising like the phoenix, and he has a very, very big announcement for us today, and that is James O'Keefe. James, welcome to the program.
Hey, Charlie, great to be back with you.
So, James, I understand you have an announcement for our audience. First, tell us how you're doing. Give us whatever backstory you can about this
This was
hellish
on
whirlwind of the
March
last month,
15th.
and then share the announcement with our audience.
Well, as I said, about 3 weeks ago, I'm starting anew, and we've just launched today our new venture. We're calling it O'Keefe Media Group.
He launched it a month prior to
OMG.
this.
I've assembled a team of some of the top journalists in the world, and we have our website, which should
Try
be live.
harder
It
on
should
him.
be live actually right now if you just go to o'keefemediagroup.com. And what we're doing, Charlie, is we're going to be sending cameras into the hands of hundreds of people. We're going to be creating a citizen army of journalists because so many people have
These are
reached
the
out to me over
interviews
the
from the
last month
lawsuit.
after what has happened, after the Pfizer story and all of the aftermath. So we are going to put these cameras into the hands of people. And if you go on the website, you can subscribe to this platform, which we're going to be releasing stories as I have. But we're also going to be, you're going to be able to buy a camera, sponsor a camera, and put it into the hands of people throughout the country as we create this army for truth. So this website is just launched actually like a few minutes ago. So you're getting an exclusive breaking news story, Charlie, on this.
It's
so
amazing
thank you
news.
for your support. And
The organization was not launched on March 15th. The organization was launched on February 17th.
hope people sign up.
Yeah, and so the website is o'keefemediagroup.com. I encourage everyone, contribute if you can. Here, and look,
So the timeline of events is this. James O'Keefe was suspended by the board on February 10th. He was not fired. He was still a member of the board. He was still the CEO of the organization. On February 17th, James O'Keefe started O'Keefe Media Group. On February 20th, after James O'Keefe had started O'Keefe Media Group, formally filed, formally created it, 3 days later, he gave that big speech at Project Veritas where he was like, I am taking my personal belongings and we're going to continue this mission and da 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 da. James O'Keefe never formally resigned from his position. But even if he had, he started O'Keefe Media Group on February 17th. He gave his big announcement, I am leaving and picking up my personal belongings, but not formally resigning on February 20th. Okay? This is a month later. This interview was a month after that.
I'm going to editorialize here, James. You could say whatever you want. James was treated terribly over the last month, and James has done heroic work for the last decade and has put real points on the board, has really put the left on defense. And James is now being the entrepreneur and saying, you know what, we're going to keep on doing this work. We're going to do this investigative journalism, whether it be with Pfizer, whether it be DHS, whatever it might be. And we need to keep everybody in the audience right now, we need to give James the ammunition, metaphorical ammunition, to be able to fight these bad guys. Okay, we got to be able to give him the support. We got to get behind him. And so, look, you can go there. It's o'keefemediagroup.com. We're going to put this on all of our social and support him if you can, because I know a lot of you in our audience, James. We got over 1,000 emails of people that said, "I'm no longer going to support Veritas." Understandable. Then support this. So, James, tell about the model. So now you're going to use the same proven strategy, the same tactics of the last decade, but now you're going to do it through a new venture. Explain more.
Yeah, so we have this video that as I'm on the air with you, it's being posted to our social media, but it's basically this explanatory video where we've received so many thousands of emails from people saying, how can I help? That's what everyone wants to know. What can I do? How can I help? So what you can do is subscribe to this website and actually sponsor, pay for a camera that we will put into the hands of the thousands of the people that have contacted me personally who want to go record abuse in their city hall, in their school board, wherever. So the model is not just going to be a tiny group of people. It's going to be thousands of people that we're going to train and equip on this website. We have stories that we're about to break.
And by the way, guys, I actually think that James O'Keefe's idea is a cool idea, but that is separate from if he broke his employment agreement with Project Veritas and then went on a months-long smear campaign to turn people against Project Veritas because he could no longer control Project Veritas. When Project Veritas took control away from James O'Keefe, first he tried to badger them into giving control back to him, and then when that didn't work, he started a smear campaign against them to destroy Project Veritas and prop up his own group.
But the story today is the existence of this website, where I'm going to be hosting classes. I'm going to be doing seminars on journalism around the country, and we are going to create an army of thousands of people. They have awakened a sleeping giant. I knew they were going to come after me in every possible way, Charlie. You know, through the years, it's been defamation, arrests, the FBI, being thrown out of the organization I founded. I knew they would try to ruin the reputations of the people who did this.
He made
It's
that
not
up.
surprising to me. But in response, they have awakened a sleeping giant. And the millions of people with all the goodwill out there who want to do something, well, this is the answer. I've assembled, again, a team of about a dozen elite journalists that are currently working for me. And we are going to create an army of citizen journalists the likes of the world has never seen before.
So look,
O'Keefe Media Group.
While we're on right now,
OMG.
while we're on right now, I'm going to become a supporter, and because I believe so firmly in what you do, James. And look, I don't say this lightly, everybody. We got to get James up and running. Got to get him the staff. Got to get him the support. The movement is lost without James O'Keefe putting points on the board. But James, can you just? And I know you got to be careful because there's pending legal stuff and all this. But can you just give us some depth into how you are doing, how you're holding up? Because this has not been an ideal month for you. And we've received thousands of emails from our audience praying for you, asking how to support, asking what they can do. The people are worried about you personally. How are you holding up?
Gene, James was the person who released it to smear Project Veritas. Project Veritas did not release it. James released it to smear Project Veritas.
Up. Just walk us through all of that.
Well, thank you for, and by the way, thanks to everyone out there who's watching this and listening. It has been quite a journey. For the last 14 years, I have been through a number of things that have prepared me for this. I mean, I was on effective house arrest for 3 years. I was on federal probation for something I didn't do back in 2010. The meteoric rise of the Acorn story with Andrew Breitbart. Remember that one, Charlie, in 2009? I met you shortly thereafter. You know, where Congress defunded the highs and lows of my life. 2 federal jury trials in 3 years. The jury trials, federal court, defamation. The likes of which people can't even fathom.
It was a suspension.
Those things were
they didn't
ostensibly
fire
worse
him.
than what I just went through.
Project Veritas didn't fire James.
I've been
He
through a
lied
lot, and my
about
colleagues
that.
have been through
He
a
made
lot.
it up.
So I'm personally
it is not
doing
true.
fine. I will say that
don't know how many times I have to say this.
I've seen so much support. My phone, I probably got 5,000 text messages in a week. And from everyone I've ever known, really, in any way, acquaintances, friends, supporters,
that's
sources. So it was very heartwarming. It was painful, I guess, for a few days. But what I drew from this experience was all the gratitude and goodwill that has been created from this movement. And I mean this. O'Keefe tips a Proton Mail. I got like 5,000 people saying, "Hey, I'm going to go buy a camera and record because of what just happened." So I view this as a resilient opportunity. I think the future is very beautiful.
He's lying. He's lying. If you can't see that he's lying, you are a straight retard. I'm tired of this, Gene. I really am. I'm tired of it. He is provably lying. Project Veritas came out at the time and said that he was not removed. They didn't fire him. He was not removed. They didn't fire him. He didn't quit. He didn't resign. He was still a member of the board. He was still the CEO. Like, I am truly flabbergasted. There is no evidence that James O'Keefe was fired. There is no evidence that James O'Keefe quit. If James O'Keefe had evidence that he was fired, he would have shown it. If James O'Keefe had evidence that he quit, he would have shown it. If he had it, he would have shown it. Project Veritas released statements at the time saying he was not fired. Every single story was saying he was suspended. That is not the same thing. Oh my. Are other people confused about this, or is it just Gene? Honestly. Are other people confused about this? Does anyone else believe that James O'Keefe was fired? Or has James O'Keefe done such a good job in shilling this narrative and repeating it over and over and over and over? It wasn't a resignation, Peter. He was still on the board. He was still on the board. And even if it had been a resignation, it was 3 days after he created his new group. So it still would have been a violation of the employment contract. Okay, Gene, I'm sorry. Gene, you're not smart enough to be on my channel. Goodbye. I cannot do this anymore, Gene. I'm sorry. I can't do it anymore. Goodbye. Like, guys, I really do. I have high I am not going to allow anyone to come in and interact with what we're doing, because like we do a lot of heavy shit on this channel. I'm not Tim Pool. I'm not going to have this I'm not going to have it. I need people who are smart. I need people who can keep up. I need people who can think. I need people who can look at information and process it. We don't always have to agree. But if you are not capable of looking at a calendar and deciphering real from false, I can't do it, guys. I can't. If you are so desperate to simp for influencers, I'm not the right person for you. I promise you it's not going to go well.
And I'm excited about today. I'm excited about tomorrow, and I'm excited to break the next few stories. I'm very forward-looking, Charlie. I'm not interested in looking backward. I never really paid much attention to board.
You can only bang your head against the wall so many times with people who will not listen, that until you just say it is no longer worth it. It is no longer worth it to try to convince people of what the truth is when people obviously don't want to see the truth. You cannot twist a calendar. A calendar is pretty concrete. I am so disappointed in so many people today. Truly, I cannot even. It's just like, if you are only going to see what you want to see, this is not the channel for you. If you are only looking for people to back up the influencers that you like, this is not the channel for you. If you are only looking for people who tell you what you want to hear, this is not the channel for you. If you cannot look at a calendar and see that February 17th is prior to February 20th, this is not the channel for you. If you cannot look at a calendar and see that May 15th is way the fuck after February, then this is not the channel for you. We already went through the lawsuit. It is extremely clear. James O'Keefe broke his employment contract. He broke the employment contract. None of this had to happen, guys. James O'Keefe did not have to have the reaction he did. When first of all, James O'Keefe didn't have to do what caused the suspension in the first place. But even after that, RJ, I'm going to bet you haven't even read the lawsuit, even though we read it earlier on the stream, even though I put the PDF in the chat multiple times, even though the dates are very, very clear. James O'Keefe did not have to. When he got suspended, what James O'Keefe should have done is, first of all, he should not have fired the executives that he was not authorized to fire in the first place. But once the suspension happened, James O'Keefe should have zipped it, allow the investigation to play out, make nice for anything that he did was wrong, which I'm sure Project Veritas would have accepted. What James O'Keefe instead did was gave Project Veritas an ultimatum to say, if you do not fire the entire board and everyone who acted against me, then I'm not coming back. That was what James O'Keefe did, guys. James O'Keefe got suspended. He didn't allow the investigation to play out. He formed his own media group while he was still under contract and still on the board with Project Veritas. And then after he formed his own media group, he said to Project Veritas, you need to fire the entire board and everyone who is against me in order to get me back in the organization. And Project Veritas said, no, we're not doing that. And then after he had already broken his employment contract, after he had already formed his own media group, he did this big goodbye speech that he filmed and then put on the internet. And then he went on a media tour to smear Project Veritas to get everyone to come over and support his new organization while he was still under contract with Project Veritas. He was still employed by Project Veritas. He was still on the board of Project Veritas. He still had a fiduciary responsibility to Project Veritas. James O'Keefe is the one fucking over Project Veritas. It is not the other way around. This is not in dispute. It's really not. Well, guess what, Fish Addict? As I have said, 18 ways from Sunday, which you still won't fucking listen because for some reason you're just extra fucking stupid tonight. Even if that was, I'll speak slowly. Even if James O'Keefe was fired on February 10th, which he was not, but even if he was, the employment agreement that James O'Keefe signed was still in effect for 1 year following his termination. So it would not have mattered. It did not matter. It makes no difference. Do you understand? Did me slowing down properly emphasize that the employment agreement literally states that it was in effect for 1 year following the termination of employment, so it doesn't matter. Unbelievable. Fucking unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. Guys, Project Veritas is still like working right now. I hope everyone understands that, right? Tim Pool can talk all he wants about wanting to expose these things, but supporting people exposing these things, and then shit on Project Veritas, who still has journalists out there that are trying to expose things every single day. And I know that because I just talked to 2 of them earlier today. They're trying their best to keep their heads down and do what they're trying to do, because contrary to what James O'Keefe wants you to believe, James O'Keefe was not the only one at Project Veritas. And James O'Keefe now is doing everything he can do to try to destroy the company that took control away from him. And whether or not you agree with the circumstances that led to James O'Keefe leaving Project Veritas, and again, I have said this a million times, I do not agree with the way that that was handled. However, how Project Veritas handled that pales in comparison to what James O'Keefe has done to Project Veritas. There was nothing that forced James O'Keefe to go and start his own organization days after he was suspended by the board. He could have just waited for the investigation to play out. He could have said, mea culpa on this stuff. I will make reparations to the organization. We will work it out. He could have kept everything under wraps. Project Veritas was not the ones that leaked this. James O'Keefe initially was the one who leaked it because he was pissed off and he wanted to turn public sentiment against Project Veritas. He wanted the public to pressure Project Veritas into glossing over whatever the fuck they were doing. And you know what? At the time, I was like, yeah, these accusations sound like bullshit. But now I actually really wonder, what did Project Veritas have on James O'Keefe? What did James O'Keefe want to go away? What did James O'Keefe want to go away? Because he was the one that started this. And then he started his own media organization while he was still a member of the board of Project Veritas, which was a direct violation of his contract. He went on a conservative media blitz, convincing everyone, bought and paid for by Pfizer. Project Veritas is bought and paid for by Pfizer, bought and paid for by Pfizer, bought and paid for by Pfizer. Do we have any evidence of that at all? Is there any evidence of that at all? Is there one single piece of evidence that James O'Keefe or anyone has presented that Project Veritas is bought and paid for by Pfizer? Is there any evidence at all? Can anyone provide me with one piece of evidence? It is amazing to me that the conservative right and all their influencers are actively destroying actively trying to destroy, drag through the mud, an organization that is actually doing good work. All to feed James O'Keefe's ego. And when Project Veritas is defending itself, because they're the ones that are the victims of the smear campaign here. It's not James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe has been the aggressor this entire time. James O'Keefe was the one that went around and did anyone see anyone from Project Veritas running around and doing interviews about James O'Keefe? Did anyone from Project Veritas run around doing interviews about James O'Keefe, or was it James O'Keefe that ran around doing interviews about Project Veritas? So who was the aggressor? Who is the aggressor? Was it Project Veritas spreading the campaign about James O'Keefe? Or was it James O'Keefe spreading the information about Project Veritas? So Project Veritas' executive director apparently resigned tonight, but I have the letter that they released at the time. This was sent on February 15th, 5 days after. 5 days after James says he was fired. February 15th. This is what Project Veritas said. At Project Veritas, we believe in radical transparency coupled with respect, empathy, and honesty. A few weeks ago, a number of our staff members provided leadership with some verbal feedback describing real management concerns regarding the treatment of people and our internal processes. This prompted the board to solicit feedback from additional staff members, and that internal letter was leaked. The narrative that is being portrayed by referencing this letter is patently false. James O'Keefe has not been removed from Project Veritas. Nowhere in that letter was there ever a suggestion to remove James from the organization. On February 15th, which is 5 days after James O'Keefe claims he was fired, Project Veritas released a public statement saying James O'Keefe has not been removed from Project Veritas. When James O'Keefe earlier tonight went on Tim Pool, and Tim Pool asked him, when were you fired by Project Veritas? And James O'Keefe said February 10th. James O'Keefe is lying. He is lying. Because Project Veritas on February 15th, 5 days after James O'Keefe said he was fired, released a letter saying James has not been removed from Project Veritas. The letter goes on. Also, there were more than 16 employees that provided feedback. The letter was not the only feedback collected. James is the hardest working person I've ever met. Those who know him well know that he will not take time off unless he is forced to. The Project Veritas Board of Directors is made up of seasoned and active members of their communities with many years serving on other 501c3 boards. They do not get paid by Project Veritas. They are multi-year donors. They all love James. They are volunteers handpicked by James. As a 501c3 nonprofit entity, the board takes their responsibilities seriously. I am not on the board of directors as executive director. I'm an officer of the organization. My role is to manage our team and help create better processes and procedures to help address the concerns of our team, our board, and James O'Keefe. While I do understand the timing of the situation alongside the biggest story in our organization's history is confusing and very easy to come up with conspiracy theories, I assure you we are still in no way and never will be brought to you by Pfizer, nor do we have any political preference for any candidates running for office. I have always been and remain committed to working with James and the Project Veritas team, who I am so proud to be a part of, to continue our mission to expose corruption. They didn't fire him. And now James O'Keefe is running around saying they did because he's pissed off that they are trying to enforce the employment agreement that James O'Keefe broke. James O'Keefe has been the aggressor in this situation from day one. And so how you feel about how Project Veritas acted and whether or not he deserved to be suspended, that is actually immaterial. Because what has happened is Project Veritas was trying to handle a situation. James O'Keefe leaked what was going on to try to rally public support for him against Project Veritas, to try to pressure Project Veritas into putting him back in his CEO role. James O'Keefe also issued an ultimatum to Project Veritas saying, you have to fire the entire board and everyone who acted against me to give him complete unilateral control over Project Veritas, even though that is not the structure that that company is built on. This is so clear. And it didn't work. James O'Keefe tried to give them an ultimatum, tried to gather public support against them. It didn't work. And then, while this was all going on, James formed his own media organization as a backup and then proceeded to go launch that while he was still employed by Project Veritas, still on the board of directors at Project Veritas, still had a fiduciary responsibility to Project Veritas, went on a conservative media tour, working directly against the interests of Project Veritas while he was still on the board. This has not been aggravated by Project Veritas. This has been aggravated by James O'Keefe. And if James O'Keefe had cooled it with the defamation that the little defamation tour that he had started, I bet you Project Veritas would have just kept going and kept their heads down and kept working. But James O'Keefe didn't stop. He poached their donor list. He poached their employees. He used their equipment. There were any number of ways that this could have been handled differently. Any number of ways. Jeff, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. I do appreciate it. And it's all really sad. It's really sad. Because I do believe that James O'Keefe does amazing work. And James O'Keefe has made important contributions. But James O'Keefe is also a narcissist. And everything that he's doing now is trying to destroy Project Veritas, which is important. Nope, that's not what happened. Try to catch up. That's not what happened at all. Congratulations, you've learned nothing. And conservatives are lapping this shit up. The political right is lapping this shit up. Beth, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. You already do so much. Thank you, Beth. I really do appreciate it. And Tim Pool's like, why don't we just make a special coffee in honor of you, James, and give you all the profits? It's like, Tim Pool may conceivably have the worst judgment in the history of fucking humanity. I don't hate you, Beth. Relax. Jesus Christ. I'm just really disappointed. What Project Veritas is trying to do is defend itself from the smear campaign that was launched against them several months ago by James O'Keefe. Smear campaigns are a hallmark of what narcissists do when they have been taken out of control by someone and they want to put them back in their place. Project Veritas is trying to defend themselves. That's what's happening. You're not smart enough to be on my channel, bro. Goodbye. Yeah, Tim says that James O'Keefe is like a priest. Really? Really? Can we watch the trans penguin video? Do you guys want to watch the trans penguin video? That might be a good idea, bot. Let me look up the trans penguin video. I cannot believe this shit. I really can't. Like, it's like just when you think like just when you think you can't get any more black-pilled. All right. Let's watch the trans penguin video and maybe that will cheer us up. Okay, hang on. If you haven't seen the trans penguin video before, you are in for a treat. This is what they're showing your middle schoolers. Hang on, I'll start it again. This is what they're showing your middle schoolers in sex ed class.
No matter how you're born, we each have a style. I'll tell you in a while exactly what I like.
Ariana and Renee, they both are born girls. They go into their changing rooms. Ariana loves twirls. That's not for Renee. Pink will not do. All girls don't wear dresses, they wear pants too. As Renee lost her mind, what's running through her head? Ariana can fix this, no is what she said.
When you put it on, you do a little groove. You know you gotta move. That's how you know you got it right.
This is me, who I am. See me in full colors, me like no other. Originality.
No matter how you're born, we each have a style. I'll tell you in a while exactly what I like.
Bryce and Jason, they both are born boys. They go into their changing rooms. Bryce jumps out with joy. Jason has a different idea. The sweater is where it's at. Bryce has to fix this. Here, try this or that. Wait just 1 second. Don't tell him how to dress. Ariana knows this. Only Jason can express.
This is me, who I am. See me in full colors, me like no other. Originality.
No matter how you're born, we each have a style. I'll tell you in a while exactly what I like.
Darla and Charles, one girl and one boy. They go into their changing rooms. Charles is feeling coy. Others are thrilled with the look, but Charles is quite unhappy. Let's try this again. Yeah, this is snappy. Some are confused. They just don't understand. Charles, now Charlotte is certain. Ariana's her biggest fan. Some might keep their distance, but others will come around. Come on over, Darla. Show us what you found. Darla had something on, but is not quite convinced. She wants to try again, yet she still gives a wince. Nope, not right either. Why can't she decide? Sometimes it takes time, only she can find her stride. Darla presents an outfit. The new name is Darren. Now everything feels right. The person within he's sharing.
When you put it on, you do a little groove. You know you gotta move. That's how you know you got it right.
This is me, who I am. See me in full colors, me like no other. Originality.
Here we have Skylar, born a boy or girl. Not interested in the girl look. Won't give the boy look a whirl. Skylar wants a new path, and it isn't one of those. This is a unique look from Skylar's head to toe.
When you put it on, you do a little groove. You know you gotta move. That's how you know you got it right.
This is me, who I am. See me in full colors, me like no other originality.
That is what they're showing your middle school children in sex ed class to teach them about gender and all that stuff. How about we watch one more? The wholesome one. Hang on. We're going to watch one more. You guys are going to love it.
Well, I need.
Hang on. This one is actually wholesome, okay? This is the most wholesome of all of the middle school sex ed videos. It's going to be a nice treat for people who haven't seen it. Yes, this is the boner one. It is.
Well, I need to see what my life is about as Martin Flounder figures it out. Sure feels funny to know I'm not alone, right on the money. Stands up on his own. Since I was little, he's always been my friend, but now my middle can beat me around the bend. Oh no, 'cause that's how the boner grows. That's how the boner grows. Tell me I'm not alone. Out in the sand we make impressions where we're at, might come in handy if you need to change a flag. Oh, my crazy compass is way out of control, and my equator grows another pole. Oh, that's how the boner grows. That's how the boner grows. It's not really They say it's normal. Each guy gets his own, so we've erected all these monuments in stone. That's how the boner grows. 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 So I'm never alone.
Well, that actually did make me feel better. You gotta love the boner song. You really do. And yes, guys, these are really videos that are really shown in sex ed. Cider, you're too young to be here, Cider. Cider always busts in when we're watching the sex ed stuff. Cider, I feel like I've corrupted you. Oh my god. Oh my god. Well, guys, I have been sufficiently blackpilled for the night. I have driven away all the retards from my channel for tonight. I have, well, at least we did some culling of the herd. If you were not smart enough to read the calendar, I don't have to deal with your chats anymore. So I guess that's good. But, you know, there are real problems in the world. And, if people can't see through the bullshit, then we have absolutely no chance of defeating the real problems. And I really hope people understand that. Like, I'm not just pissed off because I blatantly feel like James O'Keefe is trying to take down Project Veritas when Project Veritas is actually in the right on this one and James O'Keefe is wrong. And they all could have, and everyone could have been like, It all could have been, it didn't need to be like this. It didn't need to be like this at all. And I don't think that everything Project Veritas did was perfect. I really don't. I think that they hold responsibility, but this could have been fixed in the beginning. But James O'Keefe blew it up. James O'Keefe made it a big fucking thing. James O'Keefe made it a circus. And he did it all to get revenge on Project Veritas for taking him out of control and not giving him his way. And now the entire establishment is kissing his feet and saying, "You are so brave, James. You are so perfect. You are amazing, James. You are incredible, James. You will save us all, James." And he's just doing it to feed the narcissism. That's all this is. And maybe he'll do, and it's really too bad because I don't hate the idea that he had. I like the idea that he had. I like that he's doing master classes. I like that he's going to teach people how to do this stuff. I think that more people doing this stuff is better, not worse. Like, more people doing it is a net positive. It's not a net negative. But he's made this into the battle that it didn't need to be. It never needed to be like this. And it's just too bad. It really is. All right, guys. That's all I got for tonight. I think I have streamed enough today. Thank you guys for hanging out. Congratulations to the people who saw through the bullshit from the beginning. Because I'll tell you what. If you can see through the bullshit on this one, then you're in a pretty good place. You're in a better place than most people. And I wish it didn't have to be this way. All right, guys. That's all for tonight. Take care. We'll see you soon.